Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to go ahead and call this a special commission meeting of May 28th to order. I'm going to start with approval of the agenda after I've made a couple of changes. Item 4 from the consent agenda is going to be continued to the June 10th, 2024 commission meeting. There's a scrivener's error in item 8. Continuation of the ranch quasi-judicial public hearing is second reading, not first reading of ordinance 2024-14. With those, I will ask for the agenda to be approved as corrected.
So moved.
Have a motion from Commissioner Martin. Second from Commissioner Coleman. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais?
Mr. Mayor, what was the purpose of removing that? I've heard nothing about it.
The consent agenda item?
Yes.
I think we had some missteps, maybe some miscommunication somewhere along the line, so we're just going to pull it off, get it set back right, and then we'll bring it back to you on June 10th. I think it's got to go back to the P&Z, and if it gets through the P&Z, then it will be to you on the June 10th meeting.
Wow. Consent back to P&Z, okay.
All right. Any other questions from the dais?
No, I'm good.
Public questions on the motion on the floor? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. If you would please rise for the invocation from Citizen Tim Martin, and please remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance, which will follow directly. Citizen Tim.
Let's bow our heads. Dear Lord, thank you for bringing us together. We ask for your continued blessings for our country, our state, our county, and our city. We ask your blessing on the sick and the hurting. We pray the outcome in this meeting is favorable to the future of our community. May the will of your desire be done in our deeds and our words. May we speak with conviction but not condemnation. May we work with purpose but not poison. Thank you for guiding us. We love you and appreciate you. May we be worthy of the sacrifice of your Son. In his name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Commissioner Clark. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Citizen Tim. Become Commissioner Martin again. And I said that was a beautiful prayer. A little poetry along with the prayer. That's the way I like it. Well done. Okay, that will take us to a presentation. We'd like to recognize Mr. and Mrs. Hodge of Hodge Farms for receiving a Florida Farm Bureau County Alliance for Responsible Environmental Stewardship, better known as the CARES Award. Brian, you're going to tell us a little bit about this award. It's pretty cool. In a second, you'll tell us all about it.
In a second, I'll tell you.
Well, it wouldn't be your last meeting if we didn't have some issues with the clicker,
Yeah, that's
right?
something with the clicker, that's right.
We started with issues with the clicker. We're going to go out with issues with the
I
clicker.
think when I started, we didn't have a clicker,
That's probably true.
so
We were still doing stones.
that's it.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Weir, we are here to recognize Hodge Farms for winning the 2024 CARES Award from the Florida Farm Bureau. For those of you who don't know what the CARES Award is, basically the Farm Bureau recognizes local farms every year who demonstrate exemplary efforts to conserve Florida's natural resources. They also recognize them for using best management practices, and basically the award is the sign that some of y'all have seen out on the highways. When you go past a farm, you see this farm cares. That's not just something that they give out. You have to earn that. And this is actually the second time that the Hodge Farms have won Florida Cares Award. The first was in 2006. Hodge Farm has a rich history dating back to the 1800s. They have grown probably a lot more than showed on the website that I pulled this from, but certainly tobacco, blueberries, cattle are some of the produce and products they've grown. They're dedicated stewards of the land. They've implemented new technologies to conserve water resources and put other emphasis on soil health and reducing erosion. They also, like I said, put an emphasis on best management practices on the farm. There's a misconception out there that farmers put too much water out or too much fertilizer, and that just doesn't make any sense because that costs more money and it's not efficient. And so a well-run farm is a very efficiently run farm, and they look for all these ways to increase those efficiencies while using fewer externalities to grow the crops. So, like I said, this is the second time the Hodge Farm has been granted a CARES Award. First was in 2006. There's a little picture of them on May 2nd receiving the award at the UF IFAS Center in, I believe it was Live Oak. And so the recommended motion would be recognize Hodge Farms for being awarded their second Farm CARES Award.
Well, I don't see Mr. David or Miss Gail in the audience. They behind anywhere? If not, but we'll make sure we all shake their hand and tell them how much we appreciate them being a leader in the agricultural industry next time we see them. Great family, great farm, and we appreciate. Thanks for taking the time to recognize them tonight. And Brian, don't go too far away because I kind of told a little bit of a fib.
We need a motion for this.
I thought we were just receiving a presentation.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, we're not. There's no motion here. It's
No
just to talk about it and give them some love, right? So I did tell a little bit of. I had one more change to the agenda, so I hope the commission forgives me. But we know this is Brian's last meeting with us, and we wanted to take the time to recognize that. So I'd like to read the following proclamation of the City of Newberry, Florida, and name a day after Brian Thomas Day. So if you'll indulge me, I'll go ahead and read this proclamation. Whereas we are here today to express our appreciation to Brian Thomas and honor him for his distinguished decade-long career with the City of Newberry and dedicated service to the residents of Newberry. And whereas Brian began his career with the City of Newberry Planning Department on January 1st, 2014, and has since served as the Director of Planning and Economic Development. And whereas Brian has been instrumental in helping the City Commission, Development Application Review Team, Planning and Zoning Board, the Historic Architectural Review Board, and many developers in their discussions of planning, land use, historic preservation, economic development, and many other issues that affect the City of Newberry and its residents. And whereas Brian's time with the city included many accomplishments, including the creation of the Community Redevelopment Agency, the CRA, streamlining the development process, establishment of the Gateway Corridor standards, the creation of the Economic Development Steering Committee, and so much more. Whereas Brian's service extends well beyond the planning department and he is well respected by the community. Brian has built cooperative relationships with residents, other government organizations, community groups, local nonprofits, Newberry businesses, design and development professionals, and other members of the community. And whereas he has distinguished himself as a hardworking and dedicated public servant, at all times committed to helping our community and administering planning regulations with a sense of fairness, and has provided invaluable leadership and guidance on many significant projects. And whereas on behalf of the entire City Commission, I want to express our sincere appreciation to Brian for his loyalty to the City of Newberry and wish him much happiness as he begins this exciting new chapter of his life. Now, therefore, I, George Marlowe, Mayor of the City of Newberry, do hereby proclaim Monday, June 3rd, 2024 as Brian Thomas Day in the City of Newberry, and urge all residents and employees to join me in the City Commission in congratulating Brian in an outstanding career with the City of Newberry and wishing him many continued years of happiness and good health. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused the Great Seal of the City of Newberry, Florida, and the State of Florida to be affixed on this 28th day of May, 2024.
Thank you very much.
And of course, we got one to go home. CRA. That's true. Thanks, sir. Appreciate it.
No speech?
And as a parting gift, we won't ask you to give us a 20-minute speech. So, but Brian, it really has that proclamation was a very short way of fitting in a decade of accomplishments. The City of Newberry has changed drastically under your tenure here, and we will always be appreciative of that. So, thank you for your time. Let's see. That's going to move us to public announcements. Ladies and gentlemen, the Commission likes to hear from you frequently and often. So if you have any announcements that you want to tell us about, you got a lost dog garage sale, now's the time. Miss Peggy, don't forget to introduce yourself. It's been a while.
Peggy Loy. I'm here for Newberry Main Street today. Hi.
Just some good news, maybe good news especially for kids. On June 14, we'll have our splash day over in the big parking lot, and that starts at 5 o'clock. There'll be bubble machine. I've never done one of those before, but I'm sure that'll be fun. And of course, it looks like we'll have balloon maker of things. I think that's Jess Carter, probably.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it'll be a lot of fun. The fire department's going to provide the water, and I'm sure there'll be some snacks. You know how Francis is.
I agree. Any other public announcements? Oh, he fooled me. He tricked. That was good. Seeing none, we're going to move to the consent agenda. All those in favor of the consent agenda with the item shifted that we made previously? Do I have a motion? I have a motion from Commissioner Clark, second from Commissioner Coleman. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. That takes us to item 7, which is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, authorizing issuance of not exceeding $6,290,000 in aggregate principal amount of the City of Newberry, Florida capital improvement revenue bonds. Dallas, are you going to take us through this? And do you want to read the resolution into the record while he's making his way down?
All right. This is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, authorizing the issuance of not exceeding $6,290,000 in aggregate principal amount of the City of Newberry, Florida Capital Improvement Revenue Bond Series 2024 to provide funds to finance certain capital improvements
It's all right. We're getting the screen right.
within the city, covenanting to budget and appropriate certain legally available non-ad valorem revenues to pay debt service on the bonds, providing for the rights of the holders of bonds issued hereunder, making certain other covenants and agreements in connection with the bonds issued hereunder, authorizing the awarding of said bonds pursuant to a public bid, delegating certain authority to the city manager for the award of the bonds and the approval of the terms and details of said bonds, authorizing the publication of an official notice of sale for the bonds of a summary thereof, appointing the paying agent and registrar for said bonds, authorizing the distribution of a preliminary official statement and the execution and delivery of an official statement with respect to such bonds, authorizing the execution and delivery of a continuing disclosure certificate with respect to the bonds, and the appointment of a dissemination agent thereto, and providing for an effective date for this resolution.
Thank you, ma'am. Appreciate it. All right, Dallas, take it away.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, City Commissioners. As you know, the City is working towards the construction of a new City Hall. To fund that City Hall, the city is proposing issuing tax-exempt capital improvement revenue bonds to generate $6.5 million in proceeds. We've received a guaranteed maximum price for the City Hall at just over $8.5 million. The staff will be bringing more information on that GMP at our next meeting. Construction is going to be funded through the issuance of these bonds and utilization of various reserve funds. The bonds feature a 30-year level debt service amortization with interest payments beginning next March and principal payments beginning next September. Your finance teams work diligently with our city's financial advisors, PFM, our bond and disclosure counselor, Neighbors Giblin, bond rating company, Moody's, and our city attorneys to prepare all the necessary documents, disclosures, and information for a successful bond issue. Initially, we thought interest rates for the bond issue would be about 5.5%. However, now, thanks to our strong credit rating and the economy, we're estimating about 4.75%. This reduction in interest rate is going to save the city a significant amount of money, about a little over $1 million over the course of the debt. The city's strong credit rating reflects our growing economy, our strong resident income levels, robust reserves and liquidity, and low leverage and fixed cost. Despite some elevated environmental risks related to potential storms, our financial health remains critical in securing these favorable interest rates. The annual debt service payments will be approximately $404,000. These payments are going to be funded through a combination of the public building impact fees, about 40%, capital improvement fund revenue, about 20%, and general fund revenues, about 40%. Diversifying these revenues provides a funding mechanism which will be spread across multiple sources, maintaining our strong fiscal health. The financing table is, with approval today, we'll offer the preliminary official statement on Thursday, go to sale, and then we'll have closing at the end of June with the construction beginning as early as July, but that's dependent on the commission. I'm happy to answer any questions, but we have a brief presentation from Jeremy Neidfeld, Managing Director of PFM, the city's financial advisor.
Good evening, Mayor, fellow commissioners. Good to see you again. It's been a couple of years. Dallas stole my thunder, so I'm going to flip through and try not to repeat all of what he said. But given the tumultuous nature of the market, I'm happy to answer any questions about the market, where interest rates are. We'll talk a little bit about why this method of financing is different than what y'all have seen previously. So feel free to interrupt me at any time if you have any questions. As mentioned, this is going to be a tax-exempt issuance over a 30-year period. The useful life of the building is well in excess of 30 years, so that's a comfortable repayment source. And as mentioned, the payments are going to be made on March and September, starting next fiscal year. The pledge revenues are a combination of legally available revenues of the city to make the payments, as Dallas had mentioned, and the rating of AA3 is a very high-quality rating. That means the debt will not have to be insured. It can be on a standalone basis for a AA credit. Robust reserves and liquidity, low leverage levels of fixed costs, combined with just the growing local economy and the strength of the credit here in Newberry. So there is a high taxpayer concentration. So as the city grows, that will dilute itself. And environmental risks, which Moody's highlights as all Florida issuers with the potential for storms here. The bond stats here just basically show what Dallas had mentioned. So, max annual debt service is about $415,000. You can see the all-in true interest cost estimate's about 4.7%. Right now, the 30-year tax-exempt rate's about a 3.65. So, to the extent that we have an active market, when we price this deal in a few weeks, we would hope to even see a slightly more attractive interest rate than the 4.7. And as you can see here, it's a 30-year amortization term. Any questions on the stats here? Okay. This is the schedule. The next federal, Fed funds meeting, FOMC, is the 12th of June. So we're hoping to get out ahead of that and price this deal competitively on the 11th. So when we say competitive sale, that's a public offering. There's two types of offerings. You can do a negotiated sale or a competitive sale. A competitive sale we put out to bid, and the lowest cost bidder is the one that's awarded the deal. So for this deal, for this good of a credit, that's was our recommended approach because it does result historically in the lowest true interest cost. And that'll be something that we go ahead and price on the 11th and then close towards the end of the month.
Good question.
All right, and our recommended motion this evening is to pass Resolution 2024-23 to authorize the appropriate officials to execute any documents for the issuance of the bond, and to authorize myself to create any necessary funds, accounts, and procedures, and to make appropriate budget amendments related to the bond issuance. We're happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Commissioner Martin.
Dallas, what are the pros and cons of this versus just a traditional loan that we're a little bit more accustomed to?
I will defer to Jeremy to give you an expert's opinion.
Yeah, we looked at the option of doing a bank loan. So banks have typically been comfortable going 15 or 20 years. For us to be able to fix out a 30-year term, the public market is really the way to do that. The county, for example, when they've issued 30-year debt as a bank loan, they've had a put. So at the 15-year mark, they would have a balloon payment that introduces market risk. So to the extent that we want to fix this out without having any market risk or roll risk, if you will, a public offering is the best method. And right now, the metrics are in favor of a public offering because you're pricing on the tax-exempt market. So the taxable market's been a bit of a mess. So we've heard about, the treasuries being dumped by China, some of those geopolitical events, rates have run up. A lot of the rates that we hear about are the treasury rates. So we're pricing off a tax-exempt rate, which is about 50 to 60 basis points or 0.5% lower.
Commissioner Coleman?
So you think it's a big risk to go on a 30-year MO on 15 years and, go 15 years and amortize over 30 and then let it balloon? And so you think it's going to, 15 years from now, what would be left at 15 years on the principal? Have you ran amortization on that?
It's probably about 2/3 of the loan. So it's like any, it's
So we're
level of principal and interest. So
So we're talking about $2 million left somewhere in that area?
probably 3.5 or 4. And the risk isn't really that rates are going to be that much higher. There's really no benefit of taking that risk. So if rates
Is the
were,
rate better
No.
to go on a 15, 30?
I mean, it gets very flat. Right now, it's an inverted yield curve, so the lowest point on the curve is about the 8 or 9 year mark. So when you look at the average life of a 30-year deal, you're looking more at like the 20-year rate or the 18-year rate. So if you pull that in 4 years, which is what you would do with a balloon, your rate's essentially the same, but you're adding risk without any benefit.
I understand.
That's a good question, though. Thank you.
Did I understand if we go this method, we're locked into the lowest bidder? We haven't had the best of luck with that in the past.
I understand
I
the
mean,
question.
are we locked in? We have to go with the lowest bidder if we go with this method? So we bid it out? And I thought we'd already gone that way.
When he says bidding out, he's talking about the sale of the bonds.
So, not the building the project.
Correct.
Okay.
We're going to go with the person who wants to buy the bonds for the
Right.
lowest interest rate.
Gotcha. That's better.
Yeah,
That was a red flag for me.
No, that's a good question. So the notice of sale is what was one of the items that was mentioned. We put parameters for the bidders to bid on. So we want to have a par call flexibility at 8 years. We want to have premium, so that you're issuing less debt than you're actually getting in the project fund. And you want to have the ability to have some option value, meaning you'll be able to come back like the city's done in the past and refinance out of the bond deal with either another bond deal or a bank loan.
Okay, so if interest rates go down, to Commissioner Martin's question, even in this process, we can go back and refinance to take advantage of the lower rate.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
Which will also, you need to understand, the cost, there'll be a cost if we're going to look at refinancing that.
Right.
Yeah,
But you're the bank, it's like if you're saving 1 percentage point, it's worth doing. If you're not saving 1 percentage.
Pretty much.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Just like you won't refinance your mortgage for a quarter point, we wouldn't, GFOA standards are a 3% savings. We've typically done a 5% or higher savings, and that's net of fees. You pay us and lawyers and bankers to put that deal in place. So unless you're getting significant savings outside of those fees, you wouldn't do a refinancing. So this is locked in for 30 years at the 4.72% based on the preliminary numbers, and it could stay for the entire 30 years, and you don't ever have to touch it. You just make your $415,000 a year payment. 8 years from now, if rates are 3%, and we can get down and save 2% because you issue with a 5% coupon, then we would come back and say, hey, you can save $35,000 a year if you do a bank loan or some other process.
Okay. Other questions? I had a question for Dallas. So I think you touched on this some. We've got an impact fee for public buildings, right? Does voting yes for this tie up every dollar of impact fee for public buildings for the life of the loan? Or will the commission be able to do another public infrastructure process, not roads, but structure building, with the same impact fee before the life of this is complete?
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. When structuring out the debt payments over the course of the loan, we have never once used more than 75% of our public building improvement, transportation, whatever they're called.
I just call it public
Impact
buildings.
fees.
Yeah.
Most years, it's only 60% of the estimated collections is being used for these funds. Going through 2040, which is our current development projection map, at the end of that period, based on just residential construction, we'd have over $2 million accrued in our impact fee fund available for another project. Again, that doesn't include any non-residential that comes in during that time. And as the impact fees continue to increase and housing continues to increase, the percentage of impact fees going towards this debt is a lower and lower portion. As I said, for the next 16 years, it's about 60% each year of those impact fees collected go towards this project.
And one follow-up for it. What is the number of houses that we are anticipating in the impact fee?
It fluctuates from year to year based off of the phasing we know from developers, from a low of 200, but then it caps out at the 250 that the commission's told us is our cap. So, but it is based off of what developers have told us are going to be built each year.
Okay, Commissioner Martin first, and then or Commissioner Coleman, and then Commissioner Martin.
Can these impact fees, they also can go to roads, right?
No.
No.
The commission
That's
adopted
separate
two different
ones?
impact
Separate
fees,
ones.
one for roads, one for public
Okay,
buildings.
okay. And you just said, we're looking at like $2 million a year, is what you said?
No, sir.
That's what I,
Our current development projections go out through 2040.
okay.
So you'll have $2 million in unspent impact fees in 2040 after making the debt payments for the new city hall.
Without considering any commercial or growth, right?
Correct,
That's
on
just,
conservative residential growth estimates.
okay. Commissioner Martin?
30-year loan, and can you remind us and the public what our projection is for the lifespan of this new city hall?
I'm going to defer to the engineer.
The facilities being constructed would have a life of 50 years. There'd be a remodeling effort or two in there at minimum. But I would say that from a sizing perspective, as is designed, it's more along the 25 or 30-year time frame. And then there's a build-out provision. There's about 6,000 square feet that we can add to. And then there's this building, which is totally unallocated. I'd say a third of it is going to be used on day one. So we have a little bit of expansion in it within 30 years, but then we expect that facility would last 50 or more years.
Commissioner Coleman?
In 2023, how many employees did we bring in? New employees.
Pop quiz.
I mean, off the hip.
Typically, we're adding 3 to 4 new staff
3 to 4?
positions.
And with this, we're doing that in 3 separate buildings or 4?
1, 2,
4.
3, 4.
City Yard, City Hall, Annex, Little
Annex
Red
2, Little Red
Schoolhouse.
Schoolhouse.
4.
Okay.
And Easton, 5.
Okay, 5, yeah. But let's go with the 4. And we're going to be able to pull all the people out of these existing old buildings, one with an elevator, and bring them all here too? Every one of them?
We have an elevator.
With the
in that
except
one.
the city.
Yeah, I know, but,
The city clerk's office will stay in this building with renovations.
well, yeah.
But yes, everybody in the Little Red Schoolhouse,
Everybody on that side of the road.
yes.
Okay.
And everybody else in this building.
And then the Little Red Schoolhouse will turn into a full museum. And we actually have the option to lease these other
Right.
buildings?
Correct.
Okay.
And we're even going to make Jamie come over here and have an office, right?
It'll be his last day of work, but yes.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
So if we do lease those buildings, can that money go towards paying off the mortgage?
Yes, sir.
Or
Or any other use.
you can sell,
Yeah.
you apply that to the mortgage.
Yeah, those buildings will be up for the commission's determination.
Okay. Commissioner Coleman?
You calling the audience next?
No, I was.
Yeah, go ahead.
So we've talked about off-ramps in every step of the way. So tell me where we are in this process that's now going on about 3 years since this dais officially put City Hall as its top priority. Where are we in terms of this vote tonight? Is there an off-ramp, or this vote tonight is pretty much the last deal or the next to last deal before we are under construction? What's our timeline there, if we get a yes vote tonight?
So your very last off-ramp will be at the next meeting, where we'll bring the guaranteed maximum price with Scorpio for your consideration. If you vote yes tonight, and then at the next meeting vote no on the guaranteed maximum price, we would stop the deal. As Jeremy mentioned, we're not closing till the end of the month. So you have tonight as an off-ramp, and then your very last off-ramp is the next meeting. You could also at the next meeting, if you adopt this tonight, send us back to Scorpio and say, you need a change, you need to make adjustments, and it would just change our funding structure. But this is your second to last.
Second to last. So we're coming to the end. Coming to the end.
If you say no tonight, it kills the whole project. If you say no at the next one, you have a little bit of wiggle room.
What was the follow-up question there?
On the rate too, are we locked in right now?
We'll be locked in at the rate when we go to sale.
That's right, okay.
But the rate is locked in at the 4.71. If it goes up, we're locked in at 4.71.
We'll be locked in at
whatever we go in that moment. If it goes down, then we have the option to refinance. If it goes low
there's
enough,
no
to make it
variable
work.
portion of the
Right.
the rate.
Okay, Commissioner.
If we vote no, what do we lose?
So if we vote no tonight, Commissioner Mazon's question is, what's the cost?
You lose
We've
the
obviously
City
spent a
Hall.
lot of time. A bake sale?
We would owe considerable legal fees to our bond and disclosure council. Jeremy would probably still want to get paid. So
Okay.
be upwards of over $100,000 in fees.
Okay, Commissioner Farnsworth?
The fact of the matter, if we don't do something now, we could be in the same situation that we are with the sewer plant, where the price doubles or triples on us, and if we continue to wait around, it's not just the interest rate you have to be worried about, it's the construction costs you have to be concerned about. So I think we need to go ahead and move forward, because there's no doubt that the city is growing, and that there's going to be the need for the office space and to support the additional staff that will be coming on eventually.
Okay, any other questions from the dais? I don't have a motion yet. I have read the resolution in. I need a motion to put it out to the public for comment.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, a second from Commissioner Mazon. Any final comments or questions from the dais on the motion on the floor? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Okay, seeing none. Did y'all think of any in that 10-second delay? All right, roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
No.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Commissioner Mazon?
Absolutely.
Motion passes 4-1 with Commissioner Clark in dissent. Thank you, Dallas. We appreciate it. That's going to take us to item 8, which is a quasi-judicial. It's going to send us into a quasi-judicial procedure. Because we're entering a quasi-judicial procedure, this means that the commission will stop being a legislative body and will become a judicial board. That means that we have certain rules to follow and adhere to a different standard of decision-making. The primary rule must follow concerns testimony, and the substantial and competent evidence standard must be met when the judicial board makes a decision. This standard states the following, and I quote, "All public testimony taken under oath, everyone testifying will be subject to cross-examination. All documents and exhibits shall be entered into evidence. Giving of opinion testimony is limited to experts. Closing arguments will be limited to the evidence of record." I'm going to ask the attorney at this point to read into the record the ordinance by title, please.
This is ordinance number 2024-14 LDR 23-06, an ordinance of the City of Newberry, Florida relating to the rezoning of approximately 1,293 contiguous acres, more or less, pursuant to a petition by the property owner of said acreage, amending the official zoning atlas of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations, providing for rezoning from the Agricultural A zoning district to the Plan Development PD zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, more particularly described in Exhibit A, providing severability, repealing all ordinances in conflict, and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. I'm going to ask the city clerk.
I'm going to ask the city clerk now to swear in the applicant, staff, and anyone who wants to participate and request to speak. We can swear them in collectively. If you think you might want to get up and talk, go ahead and get sworn in now. Just save us going back to this step later.
Please state your name for the record. starting with Jean Paul and clockwise.
John Paul Perez, Mike Nick, Brian Bonds, Jerry Diedenbach, Drew Perry.
So,
In the,
do you swear affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Yes, indeed, swear.
Thank you, ma'am. Before we begin, we need to disclose any ex parte communications and disclose whether any member physically inspected the property. Ex parte communications are any conversation or transmission of information that may have bearing or influence on any voting member's decision. Commissioner Coleman?
No.
Commissioner Clark?
No.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
No.
Commissioner Martin?
No.
Commissioner Mazon?
Nope.
I'm a non-voting mayor, but I have nothing to disclose as well. I'm going to explain the order of presentation that we're going to follow tonight. We're going to hear from the staff first with an overview. The applicant will then have the opportunity to make a presentation with no time limit. Then we'll hear staff's report and presentation, also with no time limit. I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status. That's going to move us to public comment. Any member of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item will have 3 minutes to do so. Then the applicant has the opportunity to cross-examine. Staff can cross-examine. Then members of the decision-making body, through the chair, can ask questions of the staff, applicant, or any participants. Then we'll hear final arguments from the applicant and the staff related solely to the evidence and testimony presented at the hearing and introduced into the record. Then the city attorney will advise the decision-making body of applicable law and the factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application. Then we'll enter into deliberations. After deliberations, motion will be made to approve conditions, continue, or deny. John Paul, you want to give us an overview?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, John Paul Perez, Planning and Economic Development Department. Leading with the motion on this one, recommended motion from staff is to adopt the ordinance as presented in the first reading and now in the second reading. There have been no changes to the application between the first and second reading, so I'm going to keep my presentation brief and leave it to the commission to ask questions should there be any. Just general overview, subject property location and boundary. The current zoning is agricultural, be rezoned to planned development as previously presented. This is the preliminary development plan that will be incorporated in the development order. And this is the level of development that is being proposed. The phasing schedule. And this slide was inserted to discuss the possible connection to the southwest quadrant of the project. So,
No, go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, cool. And summary of staff's findings, which remain the same, unchanged. And again, our recommendation is to adopt the ordinance. That completes my presentation. The applicant's here to answer any questions as well.
Thank you, sir. We'll go ahead and bring up the applicant for a presentation with no time limit. Don't take that literally, though.
Good evening. Jerry Diedenbach, CHW Professional Consultants. I'll take that time real seriously here. Based on this lovely May evening and everybody's need to get home, we'd like to incorporate all of our previous presentations, our previous application materials, all the competent substantial evidence that has been entered into the record, and all the other associated materials from the previous public hearings into tonight's recommendation for approval from your staff, and hope that you will move this forward on second and final reading.
Thank you, sir.
Under 1 minute.
We have well done. John Paul, do you want to have anything to add to your report and recommendation?
None at this time. Thank you, Mayor.
All right. That's going to move us to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item, you have 3 minutes to do so. All right. That's going to take us, did you hear anything, Jerry, that you want to cross-examine?
No, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. I'm assuming you didn't hear anything from yourself that you want to cross-examine. Member decision-making body, do you have any questions? John Paul, can you go back to the slide with so this was the issue that Commissioner Mazon was articulating last time, and now we got a visual, so I think we can have a question. So the white is the ranch.
Correct, that's the
right?
south, yeah.
And there is a stub out at the the southern, eastern, western portion for that road. Is the red line the road? Is that the road that you were talking about? Is that what you had envisioned?
Yes.
Okay. And that's what you were talking about in terms of being able to get people out?
Yes.
Okay. And does the applicant own the land to make that road happen?
I have another slide that might be,
Because I thought the road would like follow a parcel line. That looks like a kind of a big sweeping, that was a rendering.
Yeah.
That was a loose rendering. Okay.
unfortunately, I had taken some time to prepare slides that showed the wastewater lines, potential paths they could take and
Right.
whatnot. Let me just get back to that slide that we were just looking at. And so,
Does this follow where the utilities is roughly?
so the wastewater line will come all the way out to the west part, that green crop area. That's there, that's where the road will end. At that western end is all land owned by Paul Norfleet. South of that are Fortners. And then on the east side of what would be like 266, if you extend that north, are the Rollins. And then there's a couple properties just south of it that are owned by the Williams. I had a slide that had that, but I don't know what happened to it. Yeah.
Okay, I'm a little thrown off by the second dog leg section of white. Is that in the ranch?
It is, yeah.
It is in the ranch. So
Yeah, that white is the southwest boundary of the ranch.
Okay, so the stub out that already is in the application is in this corner right here. So there will be a place in the future, or is this pointed at this up here? So is the diagram throwing me off here? Where's the stub out existing?
The red area is simply a rendering that could change dramatically. It's just representing that we would be connecting the southern portion of the development to State Road 26.
Okay.
Nothing more than that. No one has, I developed that.
Right.
I was simply trying to depict that we are going from point A to point B. I don't believe that the developer has identified the exact route for utilities yet. It's just a requirement, it's a condition that as he develops, there will need to be one, and I think he understands that and has a pretty good idea of where that would be. Easements for utilities are 20 or 30 feet wide. Easements or right-of-way for road vary from 80 to 125 feet wide. Significantly bigger give-up for a road than it is for a utility corridor.
But I guess my question, is there a stub out in the application as it sits?
Correct.
Even if it's going to move somewhere, there is a southern escape when development warrants it. That's in it.
Absolutely,
Okay.
that is a requirement.
Okay. So this is your question, right? So you take over. That's
Okay, that was my question. And I don't want to waste too much time on this, but I mean, we've had other applications come in front of us where we took them to the ringer, and they had two exit going out to Newberry Road and going out to 235. This one, we have way more residentials, and it's only coming out to State Road 45, 27, correct? And so that was just my main concern. So I was looking for a way to kind of, decongest traffic if in a case of an emergency on the southwest side. So I mean, that would ease, even in the future to come, I know there's stub outs, but there are no guarantees. There's stub outs and other subdivisions that's been there for years, that hasn't been built. So, at a certain point, when can we get, a boulevard, or when can we get some form of exit on the southwest side? I don't know if that makes sense, but.
And with the stub out, that is saying eventually everyone kind of understands there will be a road that goes out that way. It just, is it one of these things where it will happen when it's warranted? That's your concern?
Stub outs, Jerry knows. Stub outs are just the possibility of I guess Paul or whoever's on the west side of Northfleet saying, hey, look, we're willing to sell our land and get it developed. That's if they're willing to do that. My concern is when you put 4,500 homes and you only have one way in and out. I know you say 46, but 46 leads to 45 and State Road 27. Same difference. And this commission sat up here before, like I said, and there was, I think it was maybe 300, I don't know, in that subdivision where there were only 12 added, and we put them through the ringer because we're talking about another road being connected to 35. And they already have two, but we wanted a third. It passed, but that subdivision has two.
And there's two eastern exits onto 27 and two northern exits onto 46, which I agree with you, will end up getting back onto 47. But there's two ways in and out directly onto 47, 45, I'm getting my numbers mixed up, and two ways up to 46, right?
Yeah, it looks like there's 3 egresses on US 2741.
3 on directly onto 27, 2 north, and then all of
3
those arrows are stub outs.
Future through streets.
For future. And the ones that go through, that directly dump onto 27 now, if I turn onto that road, do I pretty much drive through the neighborhood and then turn off into like houses? Or once I'm in, am I navigating my way through a neighborhood? If a development were to go to the west.
Yeah.
And they needed to evacuate, do they have, 25 stop signs to get through and they got to make a bunch of turns, or is it kind of a straight shot to get to 27?
Got you. So my only understanding of the project is extremely conceptual, so I'm going to invite Jerry Diedenbach up to answer that question for you. Thank you.
Probably, but I think it speaks to the evacuation ability, right?
But there's 4 egress.
5. 5. 3 on 27 and 2 on 2 north.
I like how
You
he said
thought that you were going to only have stop
I like how I said he's going to invite me up there. There needs to be cake and other fun stuff if we're getting invitations. So at this conceptual level, I think the best answer to your question, Mr. Mayor and members of the commission, is roads will be sized based on the volume of traffic that they carry. So I don't think one would go through 25 stop signs. I think one would ride on a collector road, envision like Oakmont, Arbor Greens, Hale Plantation. Neighborhoods move into collectors. Collectors connect to arterials. Arterials collect to then state highway system. And so by doing roads to the north, to a city/county road, to the east, to a state road, to the west, to future development over the next 50 years, and then out to the southwest, we have abided by the comprehensive plan land development regulations and created connections and the possibility of a network being created throughout the project and into the abutting properties. And so you would have a hierarchy of roads that would be developed, but we have not developed that. You've seen the preliminary, what I would consider collectors that are in the core. You aren't seeing any neighborhood streets in there. You're seeing the ways that you would collect the neighborhoods to get them out to the arterial roads.
Okay.
So this is basically saying the infrastructure's not there yet, but it will be. So it's kind of putting the cart in front of the horse.
It must be, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, and I think that's where the conversation hinges, is that.
Because Hale Plantation had the infrastructure, because they had Archer Road, Newberry Road, 75th.
At the risk
They didn't have Parker Road, came later, but now they have multiple.
So
I'm getting a little lost in that example, but it sounds like you have some history.
Well, I was going to say, back in the day when I moved here, which was a 1981 day, Hale Plantation had 47th Boulevard or Hale Boulevard connecting to Tower Road. Once they started to develop subsequent phases, then they built south on 91st Street to Archer Road. Once they started building north, they built 91st North to Southwest 24th Avenue. Hale has never been able to go west because the Lee property is not developed, and so they are stubbed at 47th, the terminus of Hale Boulevard, against the Lee property, and there are no other connections that I'm aware of because it's all bordered by golf course. But as they popped phases north, south, and west, they continued to extend their collector network to get to the other county roads and state roads, such as Archer Road. But first off, they started off of 47th Boulevard, Hale, coming right in off Tower Road, and they're on Founders Hill and the Founders neighborhoods, yeah.
On the other side of Hale Plantation, there's a golf course. There's a stub out that's been there for how long?
Since the 80s.
Yeah.
They own a developer.
I mean, in my mind, and this is what is, if the stub out is there, it will connect. If the people that own the land below want to develop, then they would be responsible for putting in the road to connect. And
I don't want to hold this up. I mean, if they feel that this is a good opportunity for them, I don't want to hold this up any further. This is my concern, and this is why I feel that there should be more egress into this subdivision, which is going to be the biggest subdivision in the county, correct?
Conceivably so, yes.
Take supplementation by how much? Right, so that's just how I
Two
feel.
times.
So I don't want to hold it up any longer. We can roll call.
Okay, well, let's not get too far ahead. Any other questions of applicant or staff? Okay, we did final arguments? No, we did not do final. Do you have a final argument, John Paul?
May I use this as an opportunity to address the connectivity issue?
Please do.
All right, so just a few things I wanted to touch on. The development itself is going to exceed the maximum capacity on US 2741. FDOT is aware of this, and so they're going to be looking at the different phases. They're going to be a partner in the review of sequential phases coming for this project. And so traffic is going to be looked at even further as this progresses. So this is not the only bite at the apple. This is one of many bites at the apple. And wastewater is another issue. The wastewater right now will be using those wastewater lines that are on 2741 as well as those lift stations. I think we've completed our water modeling so far, but those lift stations can't support the full load of this development, and they'll have to create a line that goes to the wastewater plant, wastewater treatment facility. And did you have a question?
Yeah. Is there a way that we can use tax or impact fee credit, or give the developer impact fee credits to build future? Could we do that?
You know, for this road?
Yeah. I mean, could we give them like impact fee credit?
It is common that we utilize impact fee credits for a developer to perform work that isn't required for his development. And this would be the perfect example. I think the biggest obstacle in this road, we estimate in very round numbers at about $4 million to go all the way to State Road 26 from the southwest corner of the development. And we believe that the transportation impact fees from this development would be in the 14 million range. So there's plenty of cushion in there for the developer to build this road and get an impact fee credit. So financially, it would be net zero for the developer. The big challenge on this is we don't have the land rights, and neither does the developer. We don't have the right of way, and in our experience, it is challenging to get right of way. I'll use as an example Southwest 30th, which is a public road, but we don't have the full 80-foot right of way. We are struggling trying to get 20 feet wide from property owners so that we can take an unpaved road and make it paved. It's a different negotiation to ask cattle ranchers to give 100-foot wide right of way for this. I think it's a fantastic idea, and the applicant will tell you that we've not had a meeting where staff didn't have a conversation about we'd like to see that happen. We just haven't figured out how to compel it as a recommendation, understanding that the applicant would have to go through some sort of a legal process to require people to provide the land, and it just seemed like too big a ask.
So
But it doesn't, 10 years from now, that still could be the idea. If you've got willing partners that own that land, they can say, hey, we want, right? Then you could figure out everybody's proportional share.
Okay, so here's there's no dumb question. So could that same fund be used to purchase land?
Yes, for right of way.
Right away, yeah.
So not for a right of way?
No, yes.
So could we give them impact fee credit to purchase land for a right of way for that?
Absolutely.
We can?
You can use transportation impact fees to obtain land for transportation.
Not for utility easements. But if you're building a road, and you'd have to build the road sometime approximate to the purchase of the land. It could be I'm buying the land because I think I'm going to put a road here 20 years from now. Right?
I can just tell you that one of the property owners, there's two different property owners to deal with on this road segment. One of them runs cattle and said that while he's living and breathing, he's not having a road separate cattle on this side from cattle on that side. Now, it might get easier if someone says, we'll build an overpass so that the cattle can walk under, but that is that property owner's condition. The other property owner is a cattle rancher, might have the same concerns. I haven't spoken to them.
Okay. Was that the end of your final argument?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Attorney, would you please advise the decision-making body as applicable law and factual findings that must be made to approve or deny the application?
And decisions made tonight will need to be based on competent, substantial evidence.
Thank you, ma'am. We'll enter into deliberations. Does the board have any questions for the applicant, staff? We want to talk amongst ourselves about what we want, what we see, ready to move forward. If there are no deliberations, I'll have a motion.
So moved.
I have a motion from Commissioner Coleman, a second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Okay, roll call vote. Commissioner Coleman?
Aye.
Commissioner Clark?
Aye.
Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Commissioner Maison?
I don't feel comfortable, no.
Okay, so motion passed 4-1 with Commissioner Maison in dissent. That takes us out of quasi-judicial, back into Resolution 2024-18/SD2401. Madam Attorney, would you please read that resolution into the record for us?
This is Resolution 2024-18-SD2401, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving with appropriate conditions and safeguards construction plans for a portion of Highland Park, formerly known as Newberry Plaza. Planned development is authorized under Section 517 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations for the construction of infrastructure and site improvements in a planned development PD zoning district on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. John Paul, are you going to start us off on this one?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. John Paul Perez, Planning and Economic Development Department. This is the Highland Park, formerly known as Newberry Plaza, construction plans. Again, starting with the recommended motion, our recommended motion is to adopt the resolution approving the construction plans. The applicant is Newberry Plaza LLC, agent is CHW, an MV5 company. And the request is for construction plans for the commercial component of Newberry Plaza or Highland Park. The overall density for the development, not included in this, is 350 dwelling units. And the intensity, which is included in this request, is 150,000 square feet of commercial. This is just a construction plan, so we're not seeing the individual lots being built out, but there's an array of 14 developable lots that have been identified at the front of the property on State Road 26 for the developer. Here's a map of the city showing the general location and some of the intersecting roads that play a role in the development and impacts that this development has on. Cripes, I keep on not missing that one slide, but on August 14th, 2023, the entitlements were granted for the development. January 18th, we received the construction plans that are being considered tonight. On May 13th, the construction plans were continued by the commission. We're back here tonight with more fleshed out, thorough conditions. This is a image of the construction plans as proposed, showing the main ingress, egress, as well as the secondary ingress, egress for the development. Just looking at some of the close-up of the plans. Let me just pass through these so you can, these are included in your packet. And this image here was missing from the slide deck last time. This is included in your slide deck this time. This is a graphic that was created by CHW to explain some of the timing and some of the impacts of the development. And this is the timeline itself. So May 2024, commercial infrastructure approved and construction plan commences. May to August 2024, the two-directional left median openings constructed on west and east end of development onto State Road 26. During the same time frame, signal and roadway improvements, design and permitting, assuming that's with FDOT. And August 2024 to January 2025 is the signal construction, and it goes on to completion. Now, I don't want to confuse this with the residential portion that's coming up next. So some of the key things that are identified here are the intersections, those being Newberry Lane and County Road 235, which you may see some work going on there right now. Those are improvements with hazard lights, so folks will stop having accidents there. Hopefully, yes, yeah. One can only guide. So Newberry Road and Newberry Lane intersection, this is the main one. This is where the traffic signal is desired by the applicant. This is where the full turning movement intersection is proposed. In Newberry Road, and the proposed east access is another where there will be a left in. West access, there will be another left in, right out with both of those. And then Newberry Road and County Road 235 will be continued to be monitored. So their recommendation per this graphic was to convert the two-way stop to an all-way stop, controlled intersection. And they were thinking of doing this at the beginning of phase 2 of the development, at the end of the phase 1 build-out. All right, and this would be where the traffic signal would be located with full turning movements. And this is the east intersection, would be a left in. West ingress egress, left in, deceleration lane and right out. This is the intersection of 235 and Newberry Road. And per the findings in the traffic impact analysis, the southbound left movement operates with volumes exceeding the capacity during the 2025 background, which was just meaning it's warranted for a signal in this area. They've decided to, or they're wanting to locate that signal not at this intersection, but just north of this one at Newberry Lane. And so the conditions, I just wanted to go, here's a brief summary of them. I'm going to go into them in detail. And again, this is all just guaranteeing that the traffic improvements are being made. They're looking to move forward with the project, and so we're trying to capture some of the requirements of the construction, like the signal, in the conditions so they can get out there, move some dirt while they finalize the design of the signalized intersection. And so requiring the traffic signal prior to the fueling station or 72,000 square feet of commercial, which was the findings of the traffic impact analysis by the traffic engineer at CHW. For the city side, oversizing of the wastewater lines from 8 inches to 12 inches to facilitate expansion of that area for development. Fair share contribution for improvements to adjacent intersections. That would be looking at 235 and both those intersections there on Newberry Road and Newberry Lane. Fair share contribution, pioneering agreement for the oversizing of the wastewater lines and the upgrade of the lift station. So the lift station that's required for the development is a local lift station. We're asking them to upgrade it to a master lift station, which again will increase wastewater capacity in the area, which will allow for further development in the area. So no, they are. Yeah, they're as it's worded in the pioneering agreement. Yeah, we haven't penned it out yet, but that will come later. They will upfront the costs, and then as development comes in, that developer will need to pay a fair share payment as part of their permitting process, and then that money gets redistributed back to the developer. No, it's just we could look at
the development. We require development to bear the initial cost for on-site infrastructure. So in a pioneering agreement, we are allowing two developments to use the same infrastructure. The first guy puts it in, the second guy uses extra capacity in that lift station rather than build their own. So since the second developer would have to pay 100% to build their own lift station, what they're going to do is pay a fair share portion of the original impact fees for wastewater. And what we get impact fees are not for that on-site infrastructure, it's for the treatment plant. They're still using as much capacity in our treatment plant, whether they build a lift station on their property or whether they partner up with the neighbor to build the lift station. So that's why they don't get impact fee credits on wastewater for oversizing. What they'll do is there'll be an agreement that says we paid $1,000 for a lift station and I only needed half the capacity. The next guy signs up, takes the other half of the capacity, and he pays $500 to us, and we give a $500 check back to the pioneering development.
Thank you. Pretty standard easement agreements for the wastewater lines where they'll be located, and a transfer of the 40 east feet of the property, and that's for a suction line road required by code.
Before you leave that slide,
Yes,
so I'm going to ask them the same question. This is the only question I really had last time. When the traffic signal is required, who's paying for it?
The developer's paying.
Developer's paying 100%?
Well, there's been a lot of conversations regarding the traffic signal, and there were commitments made by other parties. I don't know the status of those other commitments.
I know we're in for a share, Publix is in for a share, but I also know that those shares don't come anywhere close to the total cost. So and I know that we've got some triggers. Who's paying the difference?
The way it is currently sits is that this development wants to move forward with the gas station and potentially households. That's up to the commission, but at least the fuel station. The traffic signal has to be constructed. The city has offered $133,000 towards it. Publix has offered $134,000, and they reaffirmed that commitment within the last month or so. I emailed them. The county proposed $133,000, and they have not reaffirmed it. I'm not saying they won't, but they have not reaffirmed it. So we have potentially got $400,000 raised from sources that are not this development that would go towards traffic improvements at that vicinity, including this traffic signal. But we anticipate, all told, we're north of 1.5 million on the traffic signal and other improvements in the vicinity. So you can see our 400,000 still represents a small share.
Okay, and I guess while we're on that, because I'll give them a chance to respond to that same question, because that's, my concern here is we write this in such a way and we get to where we need a traffic signal, but I just want this question to be clearly answered. I don't want anybody pointing fingers at anybody else and saying, well, I don't have to put the traffic study in until this, because I'm not exactly sure what the difference between one gas station and 500 houses are in terms of needing a traffic signal, are one gas station versus a McDonald's and a Starbucks and something else, right? So it worries me a little bit to narrow it down to say, well, one gas station triggers it, because then I wouldn't bring a gas station in, because as soon as I bring a gas station in, I've got to put it in the light, and I want to finish building 500 or 600 houses there first. Well, at 500 houses, I need a light, but in ours agreement, it says the gas station is what triggers it. So I'm not sure that I quite understand the methodology here of the trigger, narrowing it down that narrowly. Did any of that make sense?
It did, for the most part.
I'll take it. That's better than my students tell me. Yeah, for the most part, I followed you. Okay.
Mr. Mayor, the traffic impact analysis looked at each of those parcels, non-residential parcels, and determined that the traffic associated with the gas station did cross the threshold, that even the summation of all the other parcels didn't cross.
All the commercial parcels?
All the commercial properties.
So one gas station is worth all the other commercial properties?
Correct.
Okay, so if they do all the other commercial properties and not the gas station, they still got to put the light in?
No, not according to the way the agreement is written. It is if they want to move forward with the gas station.
Then they have to put the light in.
They have
but they can put every other commercial in.
Up to 72,000.
Up to 70,000 square
70,000.
feet. And
Okay.
I would tell you, Mr. Mayor, if they develop 11 lots out of the 12 commercial lots without gas stations, that if they come forward with anything but a gas station on the 12th lot, staff's going to raise its hand and say that's going to constitute an amendment to this PD.
Okay, should we talk about what is the equivalent number of houses to a gas station?
We'll need a traffic engineer for that. There is an equivalency, but I
We
don't
got
know
one.
it.
Is that a conversation for the next item, or is that a conversation for this one right here?
I think this would be a good answer, or a good question to answer for your topic that you're on right now. So
The only thing I've ever cared about on this is the traffic light.
So, yes, yeah. So,
Yeah.
auto-oriented uses, uses that are based around a vehicle typically have higher trip generation rates than other uses. And a fuel pump, if you can imagine, with two positions, that's two different counts. Each fuel position is approximately 20 PM peak hour trips. It's a little bit shy of that. And so one fuel pump would be about 40 homes, the equivalent of. And so how many pumps are at a typical gas station? Anywhere between 4, sometimes up to 8 at some of the larger
Wawas
ones.
have like 16.
Right, so 16
Yeah.
pumps, that's, so 16 pumps, that's 32 positions, and 32 positions times 20 PM peak hour trips. I can't do the mathematics, but that's a lot of houses. I think the whole residential development that one gas station represents, and that's
So for the commercial, we have the 72,000 square feet.
640.
For the residential, we have a number. And it seems to me like those two things should be tied together. And I just like to play the hypothetical situation. So if none of the commercial moves forward, but the residential does, and I can't remember exactly how number of houses, but that would trigger the light by itself. If none of the houses move forward, but one gas station does, that would trigger the light by itself. No matter what moves forward, once the light's triggered, the light's happening, and Dave agreed to pay for it. That's all, everybody in here, I see them shaking their heads, yes. You're shaking your head, yes. We're good to go. Any other questions? Commissioner Coleman.
Is this premature on the housing yet? Because that's what I'm waiting on.
Next one is housing. So this is the commercial, the light. So if you can tie it into the way I did with the light, then yes.
I'll wait.
All right. Okay. And you still got more of your presentation to go?
Yeah, before we move on, the city manager, sorry, go ahead, Commissioner Martin.
Does the pioneering agreement have a sunset in so much as if the development never happens, we have to pay them, or they're just out of luck on the risk end of it?
The answer is that traditionally pioneering agreements, the developer's out of luck on the risk. And typically they sunset, I'd say the average is 10 years, but occasionally I see them climb out to 20 years. To be negotiated.
Okay. Go ahead, John Paul.
Thank you. The rest of my presentation are just summaries of those, or the exact wording of those conditions.
Go back.
Oh, sorry.
Thank you. I just want to clarify one thing, just in case this slide deck is being put into the record. The oversizing of the wastewater lines is, this is just a very small detail. It is not taking a pipe going from 8 inch to 12 inches. That was just misinformation that we passed along to John Paul. It's actually making a pipe that's 8 feet deep, 12 feet deep. We're making them deeper so that they will serve more property further away from the development. So that's, the oversizing includes that and making the lift station larger.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right.
And from here, I'll just go into where we're at with this one. So construction plans, after this, the commercial component, there are no intents to plat this area. And so this will be the last time to comment on the non-residential development for Highland Park. All right. Because after this, for the commercial, no, there's no requirement for platting and PDs for commercial generally in the city.
Site development plan?
Yes, they will come in for each individual site for a site plan approval. Yeah. before they can pull
It's
permit.
roughly the same thing. Okay.
All right, and staff finds it consistent with the comprehensive plan and land development regulations, as well as the adopting ordinance for the plan development, and we do recommend adoption with the recommended conditions.
Okay. Any final questions? Commissioner Clark?
Madam Attorney, I'm purchasing, have been in negotiations to purchase the little piece you've seen cut out in this map. There's a home on it that's a historic home and a portion of the land around it. So my question to you is, do I need to recuse myself from any of this, which has no bearing on my vote, but I see what I'm doing in versus this here? Do I need to recuse myself from any voting on this?
So can you pull up the map? You
You need financial gain?
Nope.
You good?
Don't cost me.
You good?
Let's see. It's kind of hard to see here.
It's like,
There's another
right in there.
better map, but,
right in there.
okay.
Please.
All right, and he's got a form he's got to fill out that's in your drawer there. If it's not in your drawer, we'll get it to you. Okay, so Commissioner, if you're going to recuse yourself, if you'd step down off of the dais for us. Okay. Madam Clerk, do I have a motion on this? I don't believe I do. Okay, let me have a motion and then we'll open it up to public.
I move to approve.
I have a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth. Second from Commissioner Martin. Any comments, questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? And do we need that motion to specifically reflect the conversation of residential versus commercial, commercial versus residential for the light, or is that understood? Because the motion is just to adopt Resolution 2024, but we did slightly amend it.
It needs to be amended to add the residential
Okay.
strip if the commission wants the residential strip in there.
Is that your motion, Commissioner Farnsworth?
Yes, sir.
Is that your second, Commissioner Martin?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so let the record reflect, we've amended that motion to say there's some mixture of commercial, residential, all, some of that in there, common sense, right? Okay, any last comments, questions on the motion on the floor of the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? You want to come up and give a?
Presentation, applicant?
Sure, come on, it's not quasi, you can just come on down.
Of course it's fun.
This is, I have it as a resolution, not quasi.
Oh. Madam Attorney, I have been sworn. And
You can argue for it to be quasi, and we can start all over again.
I think we're in good company. I do want to let the clerk know, we did have an individual that arrived after you swore folks in, who's speaking to Travis, who's the engineer of record. It's Mr. Jim Harriott, a professional traffic engineer, and has done the direct supervision of the traffic studies for this.
You swore us
He did swear in.
You swore?
He did.
Oh,
But again, we're not in quasi right now.
all right.
So-
I just wanted, Mr. Harriott is an honest man. I'm keeping
Yeah.
him that way. All right, as you all know, my name's Jerry Diedenbach, agent for the applicant here. I'm going to unwind a little bit of this and hopefully not back you all up. Having been a transportation planner for a dozen years before becoming an all-around good guy planner, we are representing Gromax in this, and this is a project that has now gone through land use and zoning. It was in August of 2023 that they received their approvals. And now we're at the stage after land use and after zoning where we're getting construction plans for the commercial and a preliminary, or what I would call a design plat for the residential home. So there's two items related to this process here. We started with the regulatory agency submittals in January of this year with our construction plans, and we're tracking about the exact same timeline with the preliminary plat. So there's the property, and there's the traffic signal that I have sat in on so many meetings that it dates back to COVID. So just to let you all know how this all comes about, okay, you approved planned development land use on this, which entitled both commercial and residential units. On top of that, you placed a planned residential or planned rural development here. So it's a custom zoning, and it has a zoning atlas that is adopted with it that shows you clearly what happens over time. And this is a phased development with a 40-foot right-of-way dedication down the east side of the property to create a future street. Okay, you also will notice here, there are connections across the north side on State Road 26 and out the west side. So wherever we touch an existing road, we have connections. And then, no roads to the south yet, but there are future connections to the south so that we connect, consistent with your comprehensive plan, to the north, south, east, and west in all directions. What's going to be common in this overall plan is the common open space, which equates to a little bit more than 15%, I believe. It's 15 and a few points. But it serves both the commercial in Area B on the north, and it also serves a portion of the residential on the south, okay? So it is interlinked by common infrastructure, and that oversizing of that line that will run parallel State Road 26 along the north side of this will actually enable other developments in the city of Newberry to process forward. And as Mr. New said, we are setting that pipe deeper to help collect more of, I wouldn't say regional, but a context area amount of sanitary sewer here. There are 3 specific transportation improvements that are directly related to the property, okay? And those are, on the north side, you see the right in, right out. On the west side of the development, the traffic signal in the center, and then on the far right side, another right in, right out. So there will be a common access road that parallels Newberry Road so that you don't have a driveway cut for every single commercial entity. They share. So when you pull in to get a sandwich, there may be a dry cleaner next door. There may be a daycare center. And so your trips get chained in a access road as opposed to going back and forth and daisy chaining onto Newberry Road. The amenity center is located off the center collector road in the southern portion of the residential area, and there is a portion of the property that will have an existing house, Madam Attorney, right there, that will be carved out from the property that a commissioner has been in negotiation to buy and turn into another use here in the city of Newberry. Okay, so we overlaid the commercial portion, which is the first part of the 2 agenda items tonight. And you can see at the far west, there's a right in, right out, and a controlled left turn in the modification to the median on Newberry Road. In the center, there will be a traffic signal, and then on the far right, there's a right in and a right out. And as Mr. New stated, in the numbers of meetings that we've had over the past several years, we are the only ones yet to be on paper to commit $400,000, matching Publix's 134, the city's 133, and then another 133. So we have $400,000 that we've committed on paper to this.
Hang on a second, because that just, now, I mean, you just threw me right back into my one question. So are you committing to pay for the light, or are you committing $400,000 towards the light?
We have committed so far on paper $400,000.
So if the light is 1.5 million, and we've got 4 and you've got 4, who's paying the other 7?
That is a question, and that's why I brought that up, because it's an important consideration. Okay? Yeah.
Wait, no.
It's the original.
Not wait.
Yeah.
Like,
I understand, yeah.
this is, because this changes, in my mind, this changes, that was why I harped on this. And I had a whole lot of head nod back there that we got it.
Yeah.
So it's either written into this document that when you need a light, nobody's pointing a finger at anybody saying, well, I got my 4 and you got your 4, but there's nobody's stepping over the other 700,000.
Correct, right. And that's why
I'm not seeing any head nods back there now. So is it in?
You got one head nod.
Yes.
Is it going yay or nay? It's going, they got the light.
It is going yay, yes.
Okay.
Because what I was saying to you is, we are the only ones on paper so far.
Right.
For 400. You have some other shares that are not yet committed. You have verbal commitments. And as Mr. New stated, I don't believe you have a hard commitment from Alachua County to date.
We do not, and I would also mention that what has pulled out, DOT said a year or so ago that they would make up the difference. So we had funding from everyone, and DOT was going to put in the traffic signal, and whatever the difference was between what we raised and what it cost, they were going to fund. DOT has since said deals off, essentially because too much has changed. And so we're out. And so this project, this traffic signal needs who's going to pay the difference? And I presumed that GROMAX and this project had committed to that, and that's the way I understand that the authorizing document that is before this commission is written.
Who wrote
It's
it?
not written that way.
John Paul? Where's
Yeah.
John Paul at?
I'm not saying it's not. All I was saying, Mr. Mayor, is that to date, you've only had one individual group that has come to the table with cash on paper.
And I appreciate
That's
that.
been this applicant. Now,
But this is an important date.
yes, and to fill the gap, this client's going to do that.
Is that written down?
So, yes.
Okay. I don't really care who pays it,
Yes.
but when we need the light, this city hall is going to fill up with
Right.
residents saying, you got to have a light there. And we're going to say, well, it's in the document,
Because
right?
we're not leaving this room tonight till we know who the shares are.
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
But the thing of it is, that's a state road. I cannot see DOT not putting in something in there.
Well, I think DOT will put something in there when they have the money, right?
DOT committed that if we were willing to wait, but if a development needs fire hydrant out front, on the city's water system, the city doesn't put it in, the development pays to put it in, and they convey it to us. I think the same is true of DOT. If that highway performs today without a traffic signal, and the only reason we need a traffic signal is because we approved the Publix and because we are approving this development, DOT's position is that it's up to those developers to figure it out, and they have to pay for it.
Right. Guys, I'm just telling you, this is how we get in these situations with our
On the
residents.
rails, the trails, and all that bull junk.
Well, now we're just talking about a state road, right? So let's hear from the applicant, because you guys are shaking your head, you've got it.
We haven't committed to it in writing, no, but we have agreed to, and I think I thought this was our agreement too.
Yeah, can you state your
My
name?
name is,
I'm sorry.
I know to do that,
Yeah.
my apologies. My name's Henry Fuertes, and if you need me to swear in, I will, but I think
We're
this
not
is
in
not quite-
quasi-judicial.
Do you need address? Okay. You wouldn't know the little town anyways, it's far away. We commit to that, kicking and screaming on the way there, but yes, it is going to be our development that necessitates it. And to specify it was 72,000 square feet of commercial. Any more than that triggered the traffic light as well. So it was, the residential did not, up to 72,000 square feet of commercial did not, but that traffic, the 800-pound elephant in the room
It's a $1.5 million elephant in the room, yeah.
Yes, that's going to be what kicks off that traffic, triggers the need for the traffic signal. And I can tell you honestly that we probably could be under 72,000 square feet with all the other 11. These pad site type uses don't have huge
footprints,
correct.
Okay, so I'm going to turn to the attorney for a second. So my team says it's written into this agreement that they've got the light.
And we agreed to that.
Well, he just said we verbally agree to it, but we haven't put it in writing.
We will, I thought as a condition for the construction, that would.
That's what we all
sufficient.
just presented until you stood up and said, we've only put it in writing for 400,000.
That's, Mr. Mayor, and I did not mean to introduce any confusion here, but that's what I was saying, is that to date, we have only been on paper.
But today you're committing the rest.
Today, we're committing to the rest because others
In
are
this
not
document.
coming to the table.
Okay, in
Yes.
writing. And you agree that
That's
if
my
this board
understanding.
says yes,
That's correct.
when we need a light, we're not looking anywhere else. We're looking right at you guys and saying, hey, I'm sorry, but you need a light now.
Those are the conditions on which we approve.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
I'm interested what little town he's from.
Well, that little town, Commissioner Coleman, was probably 8,000 to 10,000 people in the 1990s, and I've sat on the Planning and Zoning Commission since 2005, and we are now at 140,000 people.
How many
So-
lights you got?
Way too many.
Yeah.
We are just as you are on the cusp of growth with the expansion of Gainesville. We are on the south side of Houston. So
I thought that's water.
That's further south. There's a little bit of land between us, but I see a lot of similarities within the two towns, and y'all have a lot of discussions between now and the next 30 years. Smart growth is needed, and good rules are needed, good policy from you all, so.
All right, so we're back to it's in writing. Back on track.
Yeah.
All right, Commissioner
How
Maison.
soon can we get a commitment from Alachua, or if we are going to get one from them? How can we say, will it be a yay, nay, they're not going to do it?
What Alachua proposed, I mean, originally they proposed cash, and then when they came up with the infrastructure surtax, they have a grant program, and they said, well, let's partner on that as a grant. We'll match your funding up to $300,000. And so I guess we need to, City of Newberry needs to turn in an application for their consideration to partner with us on the traffic signal associated with this development. And I'm sending an email right now.
They haven't unset it.
But then
They haven't unset it.
Right.
they haven't unset it, but and we're going to ask Publix tomorrow. They committed about 60 days ago. But we're going to see about, all right, how do we get a check coming our way, and we'll put it in a bank account, and you'll get it back in 5 years if the traffic signal never happens.
Okay, so
Back on track.
back
We
on
know who's
track.
paying for the light.
We were the only ones committed, and we're committed to cover the gap, too.
Okay, all right. And I had a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, seconded by Commissioner Martin. That includes the residential / commercial mix, whatever gets it there, whatever triggers the light, right? Now I'm going to public comment, unless you had more. You got more of the presentation?
Just a couple slides.
Oh,
yeah.
okay, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Keep
yeah,
on.
no. So,
You were prepared for a quasi judicial, so you came all guns a-blazing. All right, go ahead.
usually site plans are, so, yep, guns a-blazing, but I'll keep them in a powder dry here. So you're seeing the actual, and we have an inset map there, you're seeing the actual engineering maps or the engineering drawings where the deceleration lanes and entry lanes will occur on this property here. And we have all the timing that's tied to this agreement too. So that's the west side, that's the east side, and that will be as part of the initial construction because that brings in the infrastructure to the overall project. And then the signal there. And again,
Nice graphic, I like that.
this will be a full access signal to Newberry Road, and we feel that this is the safest because you're going to have several homes here, and that gives them a traffic light to go to so that they can go across Newberry Lane, or they can go to the left and then go to Publix, and that's good for the community, and that's why I think FDOT sided with this. So the signal is required to be designed and permitted before any residential or the fueling station can be used, or you're exceeding the 72,000 square feet, just like JP stated. So we hope that construction of this happens probably 25. This was the one that was throwing us a little bit off because I came down this route from Alachua today. They're putting in the poles for the hazard blinkers in there, and they're set back. But that needs to go to a full stop condition or a four-way stop on all legs for safety, and that can be done, designed and permitted before the residential or fuel station are permitted on here. So that loops that all back. I think there was a lot of question, and I wasn't here last time. Sorry, I was at my granddaughter's first birthday out in Colorado, and I missed that meeting, but I got a text from
You
Travis
picked right.
immediately. Huh?
You picked it right.
I picked right. I'm here tonight, and I had a burger beforehand, so that's all good. This is the only one, and I want to say this because the comment was put out there. This will require county approval on this because it intersects a county road. So in that email that Mr. New is sending, we also probably need to let them know that we will be pushing forward on this. And action is required at some of these intersections today. There's problems. Not a lick of anything has been built on the Gromax property, but there are traffic issues. We are solving those issues through our project, even though it's clearly on the other side of a whole nother project and up the road a ways. So, per the traffic impact assessment, nothing needs to happen here. It may need to be looked at in the future, but that's, I think Janine popped me off there.
You double clicked.
Yeah, maybe. Perhaps. So,
Yeah, it went all the way to the beginning.
okay, sorry. I'll just click through and get it right to the end. So what we would appreciate is your acceptance of the staff report, approval of the construction plans here, formalization and documentation then, who's paying for the oversizing, which is us, the pioneering agreement. We would like that to go out 20 years. I recently did one in Wildwood. We never thought we'd do, ever got back within the first year. It actually happened, but it will take time. So we will be constantly monitoring this, and we will also design and permit these additional off-site traffic enhancements. And there's the estimated timeline. So as JP stated, the right-in, right-out should happen here in Q2 and Q3 of 2024. And then the signal probably the end of this year or beginning of next year will probably hit that number. But we'll continue to monitor that. And that estimated timeline is the same that JP lifted out. So with that, we're happy to answer any questions. If you have any more specific information that you want from the traffic engineering perspective side of things, Mr. Harriet is here, and he is a licensed professional engineer and has overseen the study that was produced as part of this document.
And it was Mr. Harriet's idea to have a blinking green light to send the subconscious go forward, not a blinking red light. You don't want to think anybody to stop.
That was the talented Mr. Ryan Thompson.
Oh, okay.
I've taught him that you never put red in PowerPoints because that's a stop.
Yeah.
You put green because it moves forward.
Do we have any questions? Commissioner Martin?
The road that you're talking about that was getting traffic off 26 and kind of interior,
Yes, sir.
is that paralleling, I know it parallels 26, but is it on the north side of the subject property or further on the inside? So it'll basically kind of run behind all the properties?
If Mr. Mayor wouldn't mind doing his best pointing there, you can see a series of dotted lines that run along the frontage there. So the access road will run along the frontage of those properties.
My best fan of white. That's what I got. Sorry.
For those Wheel of Fortune fans.
So closer to 26.
Closer to 26, like an access road. And then there will be a back of house road too behind the businesses so that delivery trucks, employee parking can exist. So they'll have the parallel access road along the front, along Newberry Road, in front of all the businesses, clearly for the clientele, and then an access road on the back. And then that will back up to the stormwater management facility that serves both the commercial and the residential.
Okay, cool.
Okay, good. Any more questions? I got a motion, probably seconded. Public comment on a motion on the floor. Seeing none, I'll come back. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
You want to roll call?
Aye.
I don't
I
think.
thought he did. I just saw his finger.
Roll
Good.
call it.
Commissioner Coleman? Aye. Commissioner Farnsworth?
Aye.
Commissioner Martin?
Aye.
Commissioner Maison?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. I'm assuming you're recusing yourself from the next item as well, is the residential. Madam Attorney? Correct, all right. You get the comfortable seat. All right, we're gonna go, this one is? Okay, so now we're gonna go back into quasi judicial at this point, which was not posted on the agenda, but we'll take Jerry's comments to heart. So this is Resolution 2024-17. We're going to be entering a quasi-judicial procedure. This means the commission will stop being a legislative body. And we'll become, wait a minute, has anybody new entered the room? No. Okay, so I don't need to read all this. We're going to start with staff overview. Oh, yeah, wait, no, we do need to. Madam Attorney, would you read the resolution into the title?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This
Or
is resolution number 2024-17 SD 24-07, a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Newberry, Florida, approving a preliminary plat consisting of 130 acres, more or less, is authorized under Section 5.16 of the City of Newberry Land Development Regulations in a planned development PD known as Highland Park, formerly known as Newberry Plaza, on certain lands within the corporate limits of the City of Newberry, Florida, repealing all resolutions in conflict and providing an effective date.
Thank you, ma'am. Anybody new needed to be sworn in? No? Nobody new entered the room? Yeah, are you going to speak to this one? Will you stand up, sir, and we'll get you sworn in just in case, Madam Clerk?
Travis Hasty. Do you hereby swear from?
It's fine. It's getting late. It's getting late.
Do you solemnly swear or from the testimony you are about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
You have a duty sworn.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Ex parte Commissioner Coleman?
None.
Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Martin? Commissioner Maison? I'm a non-voting mayor, but I have nothing to close as well. I explained the order of the presentation, so now we're going to start with the staff overview. John Paul.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, John Paul Perez, Planning and Economic Development Department. This item is the preliminary plat for the residential portions of Highland Park, formerly known as Newberry Plaza. Leading with our motion is recommending to adopt the resolution with the Planning and Zoning Board conditions. The applicant is again Newberry Plaza, agent is CHW. The request is actually a preliminary plat, and the density on this one that's proposed is all 350 housing units within the preliminary plat. And so I'll skip the summary of events and just go right into the Planning and Zoning Board's recommendations. So they did forward a recommendation of approval. However, there was a pretty healthy discussion at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting. What is required by code and what is desired by the Planning and Zoning Board, they're trying to fill in that gap there with their conditions. And so the code only requires sidewalks on one side of the road. The Planning and Zoning Board believes it would be appropriate to have sidewalks on both sides of the road. This is something that was done in Post-Woods planned development, or planned residential development that had sidewalks on both sides of the road, so it's not uncommon for that to be an additional requirement for developers. They're also looking at preserving as many trees as possible on site, if it's a possibility. This is mostly crop land, so there's some tree line there, but not a lot of trees. But they are looking to preserve the trees. The example they gave was something similar to Hale Plantation, and provide sufficient shade trees throughout the residential development. Again, hearkening Hale Plantation. Provide traffic calming throughout the residential areas. So right now, in the development order for the planned residential development, we do have traffic calming requirements for road segments greater than 500, need to provide some sort of traffic calming. That could be, we give some examples, but we leave it up to the designers to design. And so we are not at the stage in the design of this project to clearly have what's inside that right away. They just have marching orders that we're going to want traffic calming, and the Planning and Zoning Board was looking for something a little bit more specific. Unfortunately, we're just not at that stage of design yet, but the there we go. They got some cattle grates for sure. Slow those pedestrians down. Voluntarily offer limitations to the number of new homes constructed per year or per phase. And this directly feeds into the next one, which is the number of phases. So when originally adopted, there were 7 phases to the residential. With this preliminary plat, it's now gone from 7 to 2. And the phase numbers are here. So in phase 1, there's 193 developable lots, and then in phase 2 is 157 developable lots. So, and so going into the next slide, summary of changes. So there are additional access provided, which is a positive, definitely a good change there. Gray residences is removed from the platted area, pretty neutral, but it's not included in the platted areas. And then preliminary plat encompasses all phases. So that was a decision by the applicant. So they're now just proposing a preliminary plat for all residential phases. Now, preliminary plats don't do anything necessarily. They are a kind of like your canary in a cage, there to kind of sniff out any sort of red flags. So nothing approved with the preliminary plat is final. They still need to come back for construction plans, like with that previous item for the commercial. That gives them permission to construct. Tonight, with the approval of the preliminary plat, there's no way for them to start constructing any of that portion until they have construction plan approval.
We're in quasi.
No fun, is it? And Yep, so this is the adopted preliminary development plan that's in the development order, and here you can see the 7 phases. This is a colored version of it, so it's a little bit clearer than the black and white hatched version. And here is the preliminary plat as proposed tonight. So here you can see phase 1, the red line being the separating line between that and phase 2. The green boxes are the ingress and egress to the southern properties there. There are several here, but the one on the southeast corner is an additional one that they added. It's just a close-up of the lots as they're designed. And in the development review process, we're in preliminary plat, next is construction plans, then final plat. Then they will be able to pull building permit, but with construction plan approval, they can start moving dirt around, doing horizontal improvements. Right, and again, staff's recommendation is to adopt with the planning and zoning board conditions. And I'll turn it over to the applicant now. Thank you.
All right. Did John Paul go straight through to the recommendation because you're going to rest on the record, the presentation you just gave, or do you have more to add?
Mr. Mayor, I was going to rest on the presentation because it is accurate and it is consistent with Comprehensive Plan Land Development Code. We always do preliminary plat to cover the entirety so that you can see that all the connections for transportation are there on all sides of the development. And then following the 3-step process, we'll come back with a series of other plats for construction plans and final plat throughout the course of the development. But I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
All right.
He did a great job.
Thank you, sir. I've not been contacted by anybody wishing to claim a third-party intervener status, so that's going to move us to public comment. Any members of the public wishing to speak to this agenda item have 3 minutes to do so. Seeing none. John Paul, did you hear anything you want to cross-examine? Jerry, did you have anything you want to cross-examine?
No, sir.
Okay. Members of the decision-making body, questions? Commissioner Coleman.
Hey. Okay, first question is, how many homes in the first phase of NC Ranch? How many homes are in there?
90.
90 homes?
90. It's roughly 90 per phase. It goes up a little bit down.
Mr. Mayor, in our discussions and negotiations with developer, they plan to average about 90 homes annually for the 50-year period. So we're expecting when they get rolling, about 90 homes. There may be some peak years that get up to 110, but that's generally the range we're targeting, 90 on average. Annually.
Right.
All right, and the second question is, and I'm scared to ask this question, is this going to be a national builder or are we going to have a local contractor here?
At the P&Z, it was reported that the reason for the phases going from 7 to 2 was these are commercial developers. They're going to hand over the residential to a national developer, and the national developers really don't want to come in unless they've got 195 or something in that range. Now that information could have changed from the P&Z, but that's what was told to the P&Z.
So we're going to have the box, concrete block.
Well, I think one of the questions that I have is, we did, what's it called, the zoning in progress for the big box. And the question that, all of the recommendations that came out of the P&Z were, in my mind, just about all things that you guys have put into the comp plan. And the comp plan is scheduled to be wrapped up this summer, around in that time frame.
That's what we're targeting, yeah. Sometime 2024 it'll be fully adopted.
So, I mean, and I don't know what the timeline here is, but it seems like a similar request needs to be made, that you got to adhere to the things that are going to be in the comp plan, which changes sidewalks on both sides, amount of stormwater you can use as green space, all of those kinds of things you guys are addressing in the comp plan. And I know that we have done preliminary plats, but generally when they come to us, we're just looking at the plat. So I'm not exactly clear. I hear you say nothing tonight is solid. It's just kind of a broad overview. So we've got time to come back and have these bites at the apple. But will the final plat be in front of this board before the comp plan amendments have been made? If so, then will the comp plan amendments apply here? right? Or will the applicant agree to build to that standard? Because I think we can kind of tell them what's going to be in the comp plan. Mike?
I have a comment while you're waiting on an answer. Most of the changes that the commission is seeking in these developments are not comp plan change, they're LDR changes, and that will happen after the comp plan is adopted. I can't think of anything in our comp plan that gets us specific as to sidewalks on both sides of the road. So if you're looking for us to do some sort of a zoning in progress change for residential, we would probably start that in the summer, and we'd have to go real quick, because I think, what's the cap on the time frame that you can get in a zoning in progress?
The standard is 6 months, and typically with one extension.
And I guess I'm working the other way around, because when we were amending the comp plan, the question is, what kind of things do you want? And the answer to that was we don't want a developer to use all the stormwater as a green space. We want, so we're thinking of LDRs, they got to go to the comp plan, then they got to come back as LDRs. But the comp plan is first. We got to have the comp plan so that we can change the LDRs. That's the way it's always been explained to me.
In the order.
Okay.
And the
But you're saying the zoning in progress wouldn't be a summer, it would be pushing at 6 months to get anything through at that point. Or they could just agree to build to that standard that we could project is going to happen.
That is correct, Mr. Mayor. It's my belief that if the commission says we want every change that we have been thinking about and talking about for the last year in our LDRs, we want to see them in developments that are getting approved, from here forward, then that is, we can ask them to voluntarily do that, or we can do a zoning in process thing that says we'll have negotiations and we'll review your application. But you're going to have to wait for the land development reg updates to get final approvals.
Okay. John Paul, will you give us some direction here? Because if it's a preliminary plat that doesn't matter, how deep into the weeds do we need to get tonight?
Here's the Mr.
Commissioner Martin.
Yeah.
The observation here is that the planning and zoning is recommended doing more than the 2 phases. So the recommended action is this.
Correct.
Which is all that stuff that we want and that we've spoken about before. So I think that sort of speaks to the issue of the national builder concern. So I'm fine with the recommended action as it is right now. Or at least it does something.
Martin, the only suggestion I would have on the motion is that the Planning and Zoning Board wasn't specific as to the number of phases that were desired.
Okay.
And so that would be the only point of clarification that I'd ask the commission kind of pin down for the applicant so they can.
Okay.
Well, and what you guys voted on before was 7 phases. And I don't think the number of phases matter, but it's been made clear to us that phases is one way that we slow everybody down and make sure that we're building wastewater and roads and everything in time. So I'm not locked in on 7, but it needs to be in that, right, 70 to 90 house range, because that's what we think we can fairly do with all of our builders.
Well,
I'm comfortable with 5. I'm sorry.
No, they got greater than 2 and closer to 7.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm like, what?
Yeah, Commissioner Martin, you still have the floor.
Well, we're also setting up a storm where we have to be the developers that are competing over our capacity to fulfill building permits, et cetera. So we are potentially creating a problem where the building department is going to have their phone ringing off the hook trying to put these permits through and that sort of thing. So although we have said here we're not interested in funding any more positions at the building department to increase the capacity as one way to sort of act as a governor for this development. And yeah, I mean, I would be fine at 5 as well.
Hang on, Commissioner Maison was next.
No, that's what I said. 5 phases I'm comfortable with. I mean,
Okay.
that's what, 70 a year?
All right, Commissioner Coleman.
I've said this several times on the dais, in working as an appraiser, private, and working for the county. These national builders, the homes that they're building, they don't depreciate, but it's not like if you went over here to Norfleet or if you went down here to, what's his name, that eats breakfast? Wiesman. They don't depreciate. I'm telling you, I don't want them here. I don't want them here. I want local builders. They hire local people. I don't want these national builders here.
Commissioner Martin.
Well, I think the additional phases may potentially answer that question because some of the larger builders don't want to come here if it's small increments. They want a big increment at a time.
That was the testimony given in the P&Z, was in order to attract the national builder, they had to have 150 to 200 that they knew they could go. And that they thought that they would be able to do that within a couple of years. And we can't, as Commissioner Martin said, our staff can't handle 200 houses just from one development in a year. We got to kind of piece it out so that all of our builders are kind of equally getting a fair share.
And when you drive into Newberry right now and you look past Hitchcock's right there, they got one side of the whole house with no windows. It's just blocks. I mean, it's crap. Tired of it.
We
And
lost
all the
our time.
problems they're having.
Yeah.
Plumbing issues.
Okay, so we're still in asking questions. Commissioner Martin's question, if the motion encompasses everything the P&Z said, then he's comfortable moving forward. Any other questions? This is just preliminary, Pat. We got other bites at the apple. But we're going to move, staff and the applicant are going to move forward with these things in mind. Okay? Final argument, John Paul?
None, sir. I would just ask that the applicant come up and say that they accept the 5 phases.
All right.
Before voting.
Are any of the things that are in the list from, anything that are in the list from the P&Z that gives you heartburn, or you're good with all of them?
No, I was going to say, generally, we're good with all of it. One thing I might want to consider, though, is instead of doing 5 phases, allow the applicant to do Phase 1, Unit A, Unit B, Unit C, just like they do in other subdivisions, because then you can break the phases into subunits, and I mean, that's common through Oakmont, Hale, Harbor Greens. It's just a common way of doing things. And if you're giving us the direction that you'd like to see, a minimum of 5 different final plats and sections of construction drawings coming through, that's what we'll have to do.
Okay, hey, let me pause then. Mike, all I care about is our ability to say, hold on, wait, and something inside the structure that compels that conversation back and forth.
And the Planning and Zoning Board kind of got it right, where they said, we really want limits on the number of homes per year.
Right.
Not necessarily phases, because there's nothing to prevent a developer for submitting 5 plats at the same time and expecting them to travel on parallel. Say, on average, a plat is about a year-long process between when you get it submitted and when you get the houses complete and we're ready to look at the next phase of development. So normally, like I said, I think that throttling, the expectation I think I'm hearing from the commission is about 75 homes a year on average is what feels comfortable for this development in this time frame in Newberry's makeup. So that's what I would like to target and write into the language of the development order, that we're asking the developer to average not more than 75 homes a year.
I mean, I'm good with it, however you want to slice it up, Commissioner Martin.
I'm willing to accept that recommendation from the city manager. And it's just incumbent upon us that we have to take the leadership position of how this kind of rolls out, not only for the staff benefit, but for the developer's benefit also, because it doesn't do them any good for us to overpromise and underdeliver on our side either. I think we have sent many signals with regards to our appetite for some of the national builder, and I'm sorry to the developer part of that. That's just kind of been our experience. We've been dealing with this for a few years, and hopefully you can find a solution for that. And it's just our responsibility here is to try to find something that works for everybody, even if it's not ideal for everybody.
Commissioner Coleman.
I want to tag to that, because here's the deal. That national builder shows up, he's in, out in about 2.5 years. He's gone. And that's, no, they can find somebody local to develop this, not these national guys.
Okay, I guess I just want to reaffirm with Mike, whether it's Phase 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, or Phase 1, Section B, Section C, that gives our staff the ability to project, communicate, and plan.
Correct.
Just the same as if you have it in phases, you just cut out some of the meetings that have to go through.
And that is correct, and the resolution will be worded to match the commission's intent on that.
Okay, of a housing range. I don't want to say
the housing rate, that's exactly
a specific
right.
number, but a range of houses that because I think we set a precedent with the ranch of the same thing, right? Trying to set a housing range. Okay, any other final arguments, thoughts? Okay. Madam Attorney, would you please advise decision-making bodies applicable law and factual findings?
Any decision made today will need to be based on competent, substantial evidence.
Thank you so much. We'll enter into deliberations.
We've kind of already done that.
We wrap it up generally. Any more deliberations? If not, I'll have a motion to approve conditions, continue, or deny. This is just the point. I got a motion from Commissioner Farnsworth, second from Commissioner Maison. Comments, questions, on the motion floor from the dais?
Motion with conditions.
With the conditions that are, I thought that was inherent in the motion.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor to approve this with the conditions that came out of the P&Z. Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. Thank you, gentlemen. We appreciate you coming back for a second night, and we apologize for the first go-around. That's going to move us to our first agenda item, which is Southwest 4th Avenue turn lane.
He'll be calling.
And Mike, are you taking, Ranch, you're taking us to that? Come on down.
Good afternoon.
I knew you're here for a reason. Yeah.
Yes, I've been looking at Dallas going, he's too early to be yawning. I said, I've been up since 4:30. But I'm here to talk to you guys about the Southwest 4th Avenue turn lane project. The staff's recommendation is to authorize the city manager to execute a contract with Osteen Brothers to construct the Southwest 4th Avenue turn lane modification in the amount of $305,431, and authorize the city manager to execute contract change orders up to 10% of the contract amount. This project, the scope is to add an additional turn lane to the westbound 4th Avenue onto State Road 2741. The project estimated amount was around $180,000 is what we had budgeted for this. We placed the turn lane out to bid for 3 times. We got prices ranged from $305,000 to $715,000. The construction should be from around June 1st to August 1st with no school to try to limit the traffic. This is a diagram of the turn lane that is going to be added in there around the BEVs to help alleviate some of the traffic. Any questions?
And Ranch, I heard you, this will be done before school starts? That's the goal?
That is the goal, yes. That is the goal, to alleviate the potential for the MOT confusion there, for sure.
All right. Questions from the dais?
Has it been
Commissioner
bid out
Martin?
and ready?
It's bid out and ready, yes, sir. We bid out 3 separate times.
I know, I'm talking about, but you picked a vendor that's ready to go?
Osteen, yes, sir.
Okay. Fine.
Yes, sir.
Commissioner Martin?
France, what was the discussion in the design on this with regards to coming off of 2741 onto 4th into the Bev's location and making a left turn into that new plaza there? Was there much discussion about any of that?
Turning into the new plaza?
Off of 2741, making a left and then another left? Or
No, sir.
When I turn in, do I go far enough east to miss the turn lane and then I turn in? Or am I crossing
Yes.
across the turn
No,
lane?
you're going far enough east to miss the turn lane to turn into the.
Can you put the diagram back up?
Sorry. No, that's way back there.
This looks like you're crossing
You are crossing the
through
turn
it.
line.
That's my bad.
Cross the turn lane? What is that, a striping issue?
Yeah, I did.
Is that a striping issue or you just, because I had this
It's
problem with in
hatched.
front
It's-
of,
It's hatched in there. I'm just
yeah.
thinking out loud.
Gotcha.
Okay, all right,
You
thank you.
don't want to be turning left there at certain times, I can tell you. Right? Am I
Into
right there?
Bell's?
No, I'm talking about where maybe it needs to be up that way, right? The left is heading,
Southbound on 2741?
that's,
Head Archer.
That's
Which
it,
way are you
Mark.
trying to flip it? You're trying to flip it this
I
way?
am, ain't I?
All right.
Gotcha.
North is the way it is.
I got you. I'm there. I'm there.
Yeah, let's get this done.
Yeah. Before school starts. All right. Is that all the questions?
Make a motion at the appropriate time, Mr. Mayor, move forward.
Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Martin, second from Commissioner Mazon. Any comments or questions on the motion on the floor from the dais? Public comments or questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passed unanimously. Great job.
Thanks, sir.
All right. Item 12, Newberry Public Charter School update. Dallas, is that you? Mike, is that you? Everybody's pointing at everybody else.
Just remember, you'll be
It's
on
mine
social
until I get in
media.
trouble, get over my head, and then it's Dallas's. Let's see what we got here. Newberry Charter School, oral report from staff and actually activities. Just to give the commission an overview of what we've been working on for the last 2 weeks or so, and we'll continue to give you these updates as there's some urgency. But we've initiated a process to develop ordinance language, probably something we didn't spend enough time dwelling on, but in order to make the whole thing work and the relationship between the city and the charter holder, which will be 501c3 that has not yet been formed, we are creating ordinance language like what you might see in our code of ordinance that explains the roles and functions of the planning and zoning board. So, it will explain roles and functions and limitations and responsibilities of a yet-to-be-created school board and how it all logistically is going to work. City attorney is working on that. We'll have that for you in the month of June. We have started work on the charter application. It's a 70-page application. And a significant effort to put together. We have contacted vendors that are qualified to complete that application, and we have solicited a proposal. We have one back. We probably will have 2 other vendors working on the application. There's 22 parts to the application. Just 22. And the one vendor is going to work on about 17 of those, leaving 5 for us to contract with someone that is specialized enough to do that. We're also working with the city attorney's office to develop agreement between the city of Newberry and the 501c3 that explains what our roles and relationships are going to be. It's going to mirror the ordinance,
but we'll enter 2 agreements with them. That's what we propose. The first agreement is going to cover us during the application period, that these are the rules of engagement. This will be the city's responsibilities and limitation. This is the 501c3's responsibilities and limitations. We'll present that to you in June as well. There's a second operating agreement that's coming along behind that, will occur in the fall, that essentially is, we presume that the charter has been approved, and now we are moving into day-to-day operations, and these will be the city's responsibilities to operate the school. Here's what the school board will do, and here's what the 501c3 will do. So we've got those 2 agreements under work. And we have a budget that was developed by Education First Newberry. You all saw it back a few weeks ago before the vote. And then when only one school passed, they worked on amending it to reflect just the expenses for one school. We've got that, but we're not at a point yet. We haven't reviewed it sufficiently to give a read on it yet. But we intend to discuss it with the commission at the June 10th meeting. So those are the activities. There's the timeline that we're proposed to be working on in terms of, when we will bring an ordinance to you for consideration. Next 2 meetings, you're going to see that ordinance for consideration. Since it's an ordinance, will require 2 readings, and then we'll start, if it's approved, and we anticipate that it will be, then we will start with the selection of the school board governing board membership. Now I'm losing my ability to tie a sentence together. But that table reflects the same activities that I just shared with you, but more with some timelines established. Charter school application is due in August of -- very critical, can't miss that kind of date. It'll be reviewed by the Charter School Application Review Board in September. There's a 90-day review process, but we're thinking in the fall we will get a response back, and then we will be transitioning into, now we've got a charter, we got to plan the school year. And currently, until the charter's approved, our staff's position has been that all of our relationships will be contractual. Not going to hire anybody until the charter's been approved, but we'll develop contractual relationships to get some of the work that needs to be done, anticipating that it'll get approved. And for the commission's edification, we're tracking expenses, and the agreement will have an opportunity for the city to be reimbursed for expenses incurred during the application process. And that leaves us with questions if the commission has any.
Questions? I think staff's done a great job in 2 weeks, laid out a very clear path forward. I'm excited about it. Anybody? I think the ordinance is a great way to wrap up all of these issues very neatly. Commissioner Farnsworth, will you turn it on your, no? Change my mind. All right. Okay. Thank you for the update. We appreciate it. And that's going to take us to comments. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just advisory to the commission, I'll be out of the office tomorrow afternoon and all day Thursday, work-related business out of town in Orlando. If you need me, text me or call me. I'm happy to step out of some invigorating conference to take a phone call. So feel free.
That sounds like you should call him.
Exactly. We will be scheduling in the month of June, but we'll start communicating with you at the end of this week or next week to commission one-on-ones to get your thoughts, feedback going into the budget season for the fiscal year 24-25. So you'll be looking for an email from Randa to see when we can get an hour or more of your time to see what your budget priorities would be for developing next year's budget. And finally, just an announcement that we are in the last week to participate in the community-wide survey that we've been doing. It's available on our website. That closes out Thursday, I believe, Thursday or Friday, which is May the 31st. What's our participation up to? 575 folks have participated
That's
out
great.
of 8,500, so it's sizable.
Compared, it's great.
But yeah, it's impressive, but I would solicit a request by all elected officials to encourage our residents to give us this feedback. I see in other forms of social media tons of feedback that the community has for the city on how we should be doing things. This survey would really help us quantify everybody's, and we'll parse all that data, try to use it as much as we can in this budget season, but certainly get it broken down so that we can report back to the commission and we can use that as we plot our direction moving forward. Mr. Mayor, that concludes my comments.
Thank you, sir. Madam Attorney? Thank you. Madam Clerk?
I don't have anything, thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Commissioner Coleman? Commissioner Clark?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, so a couple things. Number one, God bless America and God bless our troops. Another thing on a city side, I've been out of pocket, but I kind of feel like there's a communication problem. And I can't figure out exactly, like we get to the dais tonight, some of this stuff's off, I ask a few questions, I just don't feel like we're working as a team that we used to be. There is something amiss between the staff, between the commission, between something going on in the city, and I just feel like we need to pull ourselves together and get back to being a team.
Well, I'm gonna take the blame for that one because
We had a lot going on.
I've been a little distracted. Yeah, but I think that I will absolutely commit. Me and Mike will get back to I don't know what we used to do, but weekly phone calls, communication, and we'll get that communication back on track where everybody feels like everybody's in the know. That sound good?
Yeah, we just need some better communication up and down the line, I think. And like I said, I know I've been sick and I was gone a week, but I just kind of feel like I'm missing things that I don't get. I hear stuff outside more than I do inside here anymore.
All right, I'll make that my number one priority. That it?
Care Bear.
Yeah. Anything else, Commissioner?
No.
All right, we appreciate that. Commissioner Farnsworth? Commissioner Martin? Commissioner Mazon?
Absolutely. Shoot, yeah, man. Y'all so quiet over there.
When was Adidas versus Nike?
Adidas versus Nike, no. Okay, so Juneteenth is coming up, June 15th, at the Freddie Womack facility. And I wanted to encourage every citizen to come out and celebrate with the family and fun. It's going to be vendors, food vendors, bouncy houses, softball games. How was the Watermelon Festival, buddy? I'm surprised you didn't mention anything about the Watermelon Festival.
He's being humble.
He's humble.
Humility.
This guy, come on, man. He stole that flame last commission. You ain't going to say nothing about it? Here we go. All right, so I do have a question for you guys. You guys ready for this question? It's so simple. It's history.
It was 27 feet, okay? Was that your question? Clearly.
This is an easy one. Okay, I don't want you to answer it because you may know. Okay? When was the Bill of Rights signed?
Oh, that's a good question.
Don't wait. Anybody?
Never.
Miss Peggy?
I don't want to embarrass myself in front of
You're fine. I'm already doing that for you.
If it was signed with the Constitution, it was September 17, 1787,
You're close.
but it was shortly thereafter that.
December 1791. 91.
You hear that?
Did you know?
Did you know that?
Yeah.
He got back there with the glasses. He was okay.
Wow. That's a good question. I like that. I like the history questions. Yeah. I just wanted to remind everybody that we got high school graduation this Thursday. Be at the O'Connell Center. I think they are broadcasting it. They love you guys to come. But we wish all those seniors good luck and to be safe. I also want to say kudos to the Watermelon Festival Committee. It was great this year. There was a little bit of overcast, so it kept some of the heat away from us. Great crowd. Congratulations, Commissioner Martin, for that championship spit. Well done. Well done. Yep. Good parade. Parade was nice. All of it was great. Yeah, but he just abstained. He had to set it out, give other people a shot.
I got it here.
Yeah. Let's see, and then Mike, do you have an update, or maybe Dallas, on the downtown stormwater plan? What's the next update that we're gonna get? Because I can't remember now, we're in like a consultant is telling us, designing 2 or 3 ways that we could go forward.
Consultant's still evaluating alternatives. I'm not certain when they plan to get far enough along that they can give the commission an update, but we will communicate. Well, Jamie's going to be out until next Monday, but I'll get an email to him and we'll get your report next week sometime.
My goal would be to try to get that during this budget season. So if there's budgetary implication, we can make that decision. Okay, that concludes my comments. Public comments. You got another one?
Brian, you will be missed. I want to wish you luck.
And he waited till the end of
in
the
your
night.
future endeavors, brother.
Yeah.
Seriously, he needs to know that.
We're gonna see him back here at Stone House
Appreciate you.
when the Tex-Mex place opens up, right? Yeah, he's not going anywhere. All right, public comment?
There's going to Oklahoma City.
All right, I don't know what that means, but softball. All right, yes. All right, meeting adjourned. Don't go anywhere. We'll take a 5-minute break, and then we're going to start 2-minute break. We'll start, we're going to call this regularly scheduled Community Redevelopment Agency Board, May 28th to order. We're going to start with an approval of the agenda as it was published. I have a motion from Commissioner Maison, second from Commissioner Coleman. Any comments, questions on the motion before from the dais? Public comments, questions on the motion on the floor? Seeing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. We're going to start with a presentation of downtown strategies, hired to help develop a plan of action. I like it. And you thought you were all done. See, Commissioner Mason, he thought you were all done. You had one more presentation to go.
Nobody's probably watching this.
Can't get enough of Brian.
No one's watching this.
Yeah.
They're done.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Yeah. This is basically an educational presentation to inform the CRA board what we're working on right now. So,
She did that on purpose.
So, the Newberry CRA has engaged a company called Downtown Strategies. They basically work with cities to identify what areas they should focus on in the near term so that they can get to the point where redevelopment starts to take off on its own. And so they study the community and then make the recommendations, come up and formulate an action plan, not some long-term 20-year plan that sits on a shelf, but actually actionable items that the city can take, recognizing budget constraints and that kind of thing, and then moving forward, they will stick around and actually help with implementation, advise on implementation. So basically, it starts with the discovery phase. That's the period we're in right now. They're working with staff on background data and doing their own data analysis, and then they're ultimately going to come July 17th for a walking tour, meeting with the core group that we'll talk about in a second, and then doing a visioning workshop for the broader group. They'll also, like I said, be analyzing data to review current work plans in the city, things we've already got in progress. And then, like I said, they believe in action and implementation far more important than having just a flashy 20-year vision. And so the whole goal is to lead to an actionable strategic plan for the redevelopment of this area downtown district. Step one, development of the core team. The core team is going to be anywhere from 3 to 5 people. It's going to be key city staff. It's going to be downtown merchants. It's going to be a member or two from Newberry Main Street Organization, Newberry Chamber of Commerce. It's going to be the core advisory group, and then ultimately the strategic visioning, when they come for their site visit, is going to be opened up to a much broader community. Anybody in the community, but especially it's going to focus on the notifications, and they're going to focus on the downtown businesses, and anybody involved in business in Newberry in the CRA district is going to be invited to come and participate in that. So you have a much broader, as well as the elected officials are going to be invited to that as well. So they do the visioning workshop. Like I said, it'll include the elected officials, the property owners, business owners, everybody, a much broader base than the core group, to get as much input as possible about the downtown. And that's just the flyer that they've provided to us so far on the strategic visioning workshop. That'll be July 17th. We've got the date scheduled. We assume it's going to be in the municipal building, and you'll get a lot more information about that as the time goes by and it gets closer. So the action plan basically will include a market analysis focusing on 4 key focus areas, and recognizing that successful downtowns need initiatives in those 4 key areas: policy, administration, design, tourism, and promotion, economic vitality. And then once the downtown strategies has identified that starting point, then they help the CRA get a jump start on taking that action. One of the things that we like about downtown strategies is they recognize that you have your downtown, which is the prime opportunity for your local businesses, your local folks, not it's not especially in small towns, it's not an appropriate place for your national chains to locate. Even though you want redevelopment in the downtown, you don't necessarily want it to be national chains or national groups coming in. You want it to focus on your placemaking, your downtown businesses, your local businesses, that provides you unique character that then people come in from, want to come in from the outside because they want to experience Newberry downtown, because Newberry's downtown is unique. And so they recognize that, and that's part of their work effort, is to how to make that happen. And then, like I said, they remain involved with the community to help ensure the results. Timeline, we're, first 6 months in discovery phase, that's where we're at right now, like I said. Then the development of the strategic plan from 7 through 9. And of course, they'll be working with staff on that as well during that time. And then the implementation phase in months 10 through 12. That's where, everything that's been developed into the plan starts getting implemented and starts moving forward to get to that point where redevelopment starts to have a life of its own, and interest takes off, and you get that inertia that builds, and you get the downtown redeveloping almost on its own. Can't really say its own, but the CRA is going to be the big part of moving that all forward and creating that spark. And that, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Anybody got questions?
Yeah.
Commissioner Maison.
The core group, is it a paid or is it a volunteer position?
All volunteer.
All volunteer.
City staff's paid, obviously, but participation of the other members of the core group is on volunteer.
Are the decisions finally made on the commission, or do they make those decisions?
All decisions to move forward is going to be the CRA board, and so
They're like an advisory board. They would be like an advisory board back to the CRA board. This is what we thought. This is the plan we're bringing back.
And as the CRA, as the board, you'll have input into the final strategic plan and the implementation as well.
Commissioner Clark.
What do we do in the meantime, Brian, to just keep moving forward with the little things that we got going on as far as our downtown, getting our facades and getting that dirt out of them bricks and getting them
We keep moving forward with those.
We just keep trying.
And yes, sir. And we've got a number of projects going, and we'll just keep moving forward with those in the interim. And then they're going to look at the projects, like I said, those projects we already have in place, and that will ultimately unfold.
Who is the baton passed to when you leave? Is there already, you're just basically passing the baton on the projects we got? There's an Excel spreadsheet that...
The planning staff is working on some of them. The facility staff, public works staff is working on some of their, for the stuff that's public works and utilities related, they're the project managers for that.
Keeping up with our downtown people.
Who's going to be coming forward at the next Saturday meeting with a mural program that she would like to present to the board and see if the board is amenable to that. So and then ultimately when the replacement is chosen.
This is a good time, I believe, to reaffirm my plug that when we get into budget season, we need to be considering at least a part-time CRA director to move these things, because I don't know that we're going to find another Brian who can be planning director, building director, economic development director, CRA director, and I feel like I'm missing one or two, So we got to start taking a hat or two off of the position, and this one seems like one that should go. Commissioner.
One more time. Is this just a one-time deal that we hire them and they go through this thing, and then once the board's done, then the board continues doing our local work and this group here is out?
It could be that way if the board chose to, but they're also...
Or you can keep hiring them, consulting?
To the next level and the next level.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor.
Commissioner Martin.
I'll preemptively say that if she's bringing forward something related to the Wall Dogs fiasco that happened in other communities, that is a DOA non-starter, okay?
I'll make sure she does.
Okay.
I just reiterate, Commissioner Clark, I don't want any of the stuff that's going. I always like having a master plan, but I think the commission or the CRA board has already given direction on 2 or 3 things. I don't want those to fall off while we're waiting on the master plan. Okay, if there are no more questions, Mr. Thomas, we appreciate you and have appreciated you for 10 years. So we hope you have nothing but luck. Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda as it was published?
Motion.
I have a motion from Commissioner Mazon, second from Commissioner Clark. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion passes unanimously. We'll go on to comments. Executive Director, you already sat down, so I'm assuming you have no comments? All right. CRA Attorney, do you have any comments?
Nothing for me.
Thank you. CRA Board, Commissioner Coleman, you got any comments?
I ain't got nothing.
Clerk doesn't have a comment section in this. Do you have any comments for the CRA?
I was just gonna wish Brian.
I appreciate
the
that.
best of luck.
Yeah.
And tell him that I will miss working with him.
I agree. Thank you. Commissioner Clark? Commissioner Farnsworth?
Yeah, when was the Bill of Rights signed?
Man, stop. Commissioner Martin, you got anything?
I just wanted to say that I appreciate,
Yeah. Commissioner Mazon?
It's dry as hell, but it's good. I do have a question. I have 2 of your shirts still, Brian.
They're yours now.
That I borrowed. Hey, to your flag, we were talking about this before, with the flags.
The orange flags crossing the road?
Yes, crossing the road. So, Mike, I was talking to a citizen, Chris Torrance, actually, and he was saying, what about solar stop signs? You don't have to go into the ground with them. It solely works off of solar.
So it's like shining a light on the
Yeah, and
stop
they
sign.
have them to where they're motion detected, to where, you push that button, it lights up. I mean, something that DOT doesn't have to get a...
still a deal.
No, I thought that DOT, if it
I
was...
think get some pictures and sit down with Mike.
For the crosswalk?
Yeah.
So really good idea. It's still a DOT project.
Oh, it is?
Yeah, there are very few exceptions when it's acceptable for the local agency to put facilities in the middle of the state highway. I've seen that.
I mean, I thought that it was
I've seen it stretched to some limits.
that was a question, like a...
You're talking about the little
Yeah,
stop
I thought it was
sign
maybe like
in the middle.
getting a...
I broached it with them. DOT was in town last week, and I broached it with them. They're gonna get the right team. I'd sent him an email after the last meeting, and he followed up in more detail about what we were talking about. He connected me with the right person, and they're supposed to follow up shortly. But we're working on it. But I like your idea, and to the mayor's point, you can push an image or any information that you can find on it. We'll be sure to explore it with more vigor.
Did you get some more flags out there?
I sent the email. I don't know if they're out there yet.
We should get a different color.
There's some flag out there.
I thought when you put it up, you were assuming a responsibility in ad infinitum for replacing the flags.
Well, the city has bought new ones since I put the originals up there.
Yeah.
Glow in the dark.
Glow in the dark flags, reflective flags. How about the checkered flags?
Like I said before, styrofoam bricks.
Yeah.
They look like bricks.
I thought there was a little traffic.
All right.
Go out there and,
I have no comment. Did you have something? I'm sorry. Susan's comment. We're adjourned.